Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, members of Congress and the Cabinet, Justices of the Supreme Court, my fellow Americans. Last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again. Tonight, we meet as Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, but most importantly, as Americans, with the duty to one another, to America, to the American people, to the Constitution, and an unwavering resolve that freedom will always triumph over tyranny. Thank you. 6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met
a bunch
the
of Twitter
Ukrainian
tweets.
people. President Zelensky, to every Ukrainian, their fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies, everyone from students to retirees to teachers, turned soldiers defending their homeland. And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine.
Join the hive mind.
Thank you.
Make sure Jill Biden is there.
She's bright, she's strong, and she's resolved. Yes, we, the United States of America, stand with the Ukrainian people. Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos. They keep moving, and the cost, the threats to America and America to the world keeps rising. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability in Europe after World War II. The United States is a member, along with 29 other nations. It matters. American diplomacy matters. American resolve matters. Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked. He rejected repeated efforts at diplomacy. He thought the West and NATO wouldn't respond. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, in this nation. He thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are ready. We are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. We prepared extensively and carefully. We spent months building coalitions of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, from America to the Asian and African continents, to confront Putin. Like many of you, I spent countless hours unifying our European allies. We shared with the world in advance what we knew Putin was planning and precisely how we would try to falsify and justify his aggression. We countered Russia's lies with the truth. And now that he's acted, the free world is holding him accountable, along with 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and many others, even Switzerland. are inflicting pain on Russia and supporting the people of Ukraine. Putin is now isolated from the world more than he has ever been. Together,
I don't think he cares about your hashtags there, Joe.
together,
Oops, sorry, guys.
Together, along with our allies, we are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions. We're cutting off Russia's largest banks from the international financial system, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble, making Putin's $630 billion war fund worthless. We're choking Russia's access. We're choking Russia's access to technology that will sap its economic strength and weaken its military for years to come. Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who built billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more. The United States, I mean it. The United States Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of the Russian oligarchs. We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming for your ill-begotten gains. And tonight, I'm announcing that we will join our allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy.
All by design, indeed. No one's going to be affected here except for the poorest.
He has no idea what's coming. The ruble has already lost 30% of its value. The Russian stock market has lost 40% of its value, and trading remains suspended. The Russian economy is reeling, and Putin alone is the one to blame. Together with our allies, we're providing support to the Ukrainians in their fight for freedom. Military assistance.
Sending in Hunter
economic
Biden
assistance,
for some more business
humanitarian
deals.
assistance. We're giving more than $1 billion in direct assistance to Ukraine, and will continue to aid the Ukrainian people as they defend their country and help ease their suffering. But let me be clear. Our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event that Putin decides to keep moving west. For that purpose, we have mobilized American ground forces, air squadrons, ship deployments to protect NATO countries including Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as I've made crystal clear, the United States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with the full force of our collective power. Every single inch. And we're clear-eyed. Ukrainians are fighting back with pure courage. But the next few days, weeks, and months will be hard on them. Putin has unleashed violence and chaos, but while he may make gains on the battlefield, he'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. And a pound of Ukrainian people, proud people, pound for pound, ready to fight with every inch of energy they have. They've known 30 years of independence, have repeatedly shown that they will not tolerate anyone who tries to take their country backwards. To all Americans, I'll be honest with you, as I always promised I would be. A Russian dictator invading a foreign country has cost around the world. And I'm taking robust action to make sure the pain of our sanctions is targeted at the Russian economy, and that we use every tool at our disposal to protect American businesses and consumers. Tonight, I can announce the United States has worked with 30 other countries to release 60 million barrels of oil from reserves around the world. America will lead that effort, releasing 30 million barrels of our own strategic petroleum reserve. And we stand ready to do more if necessary, united with our allies. These steps will help blunt gas prices here at home, but I know news about what's happening can seem alarming to all Americans. But I want you to know we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. While it shouldn't have taken something so terrible for people around the world to see what's at stake, now everyone sees it clearly. We see the unity among leaders of nations, a more unified Europe, a more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment, and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test, and it's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kiev with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom.
Circle
and he will
Kiev
never,
with tanks? He shouldn't have said that.
The free world.
Just to let you know, the mayor of Kiev just talked about how Kiev is surrounded, and then he took it back saying he misspoke, and then Biden just said that.
We meet tonight in an America that has lived through two of the hardest years this nation has ever faced. The pandemic has been punishing, and so many families are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with the rising cost of food, gas, housing, and so much more. I understand, like many of you did. My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up, it was felt throughout the family. It had an impact. That's when one of the first things I did as president was fight to pass the American Rescue Plan. Because people were hurting. We needed to act, and we did. Few pieces of legislation have done more at a critical moment in our history to lift us out of a crisis. It fueled our efforts to vaccinate the nation and combat COVID-19, delivered immediate economic relief to tens of millions of Americans. It helped put food on the table. Remember those long lines of cars waiting for hours just to get a box of food put in their trunk. It cut the cost of health care insurance. And as my dad used to say, it gave the people just a little bit of breathing room. Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the previous administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind.
Yeah, don't forget when to clap there, buddy.
Folks,
I forget his name.
and
Not
it
looking
worked.
good.
It worked.
What a clown show.
It worked. We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America. The economy grew at a rate of 5.7 last year, the strongest growth rate in 40 years.
Schumer, there you go.
The first
Thanks,
step
man.
in bringing fundamental change to our economy that hasn't worked for working people in this nation for too long. For the past 40 years, we were told the tax break for those at the top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit. But that trickle-down theory led to a weaker economic growth, lower wages, bigger deficits, and a widening gap between the top and everyone else in nearly a century. Look, Vice President Harris and I ran for office, and I realize we have fundamental disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America, educate Americans, grow the workforce, Build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because we know. Because we know. Because we know when the middle class grows, the poor go way up and the wealthy do very well. America used to have the best roads, bridges, and airports on earth. And now our infrastructure is ranked 13th in the world. We won't be able to compete for the jobs of the 21st century if we don't fix it. That's why it was so important to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I thank my Republican friends who joined to invest and rebuild America. The single biggest investment in history. It was a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen. We're done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade. And look, it's going to transform America, to put us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century that we face with the rest of the world, particularly China. I've told
Yeah,
Xi
I think we're
Jinping
getting into the actual State of the
it's never been a
Union
good bet
address
to
now.
bet
I
against
don't.
the
That's as
American
much
people. We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modernizing
of the old
roads,
man that I
airports,
can
ports,
put up with.
waterways, all across America.
So I'm gonna
And we'll do it.
mute this part. That's the State of the Union address. They just got through the Ukraine part. We got a lot of news here today, so I want to get through it. I don't want to be watching him all day. Do me a favor, guys. If you could hit that like button just so that we could amplify. It does help with the algorithms. I hate asking, but it does help a lot. So I would appreciate it very much if you could hit the like, just so that more people can get to it. Let's see. Want to say hello to the people in chat. Kamagata. Hello from Tokyo, Japan. Good to see you, man. Base Samurai. Wise as a serpent, gentle as a dog, or gentle as a dove. Sorry. Dog and Pony Show. Yeah. Well, I mean that's Congress for you, right? Let's see. All by design, indeed. I wonder what percentage of the U.S. and the world believe this propaganda. I'm gonna guess it's about a 4-to-1. It's usually, I think that's pretty decent estimation. There's a lot of people that are calling out, this crap for what it is. So there is that. Let's see. Bribe the mobilizing troops means one thing. It's on. I don't know. All they're talking about is sanctions. So NATO is baiting Russia with promise of new fighter jets and using Polish military bases. Interesting. Azov Battalion is surrounded Mariupol. Yeah, I have seen this. We're going to go through the map now in one moment. I do not trust this map anymore, to be honest with you. I think that they are leaving out far too much. I believe that Mariupol, for one, which is down here, I'm having problems loading this up, but this is the coastline right here. There's a city right where that target is, and I believe that it's surrounded. Okay? Yeah, there you go. I have a feeling that they have met the Donetsk side and the one coming in from Crimea, northeast from Crimea. I believe that they have solidified their front here and are now pushing in on Mariupol. I got a feeling that those troops are surrounded, which, in my opinion, although I don't have a dog in this fight, when it comes to the Azov Battalion, I'm quite happy to hear that they've been surrounded and will be dealt with. Considering how the Azov Battalion, if you don't know, they are actual neo-Nazis. Well, we don't even say neo. They're Nazis, right? I don't think that's the same thing with all of the Ukrainian troops, but in this case it is, so that's great to hear. Azov is this region right here. And, yeah, they were attacking Donetsk and Luhansk for the past 8 years. They've been used as kind of like crack troops by Ukraine. So Ukraine doesn't care about utilizing actual Nazis. And there are many of them among their ranks, that's for sure. This is looking at Kiev here. And again, they've only added this little part here in Makariv that has come down towards the south, or southway, to the west of Kiev. But I have a feeling that we're actually looking at many more troops down here. I have a feeling that Kiev is surrounded. That's what the mayor of Kiev had said right before saying he misspoke. And then you hear Biden just talking about how tanks are surrounding Kiev, or they may surround Kiev. So I have a feeling that that is probably much more likely. Charkiv, which is over here, is apparently also surrounded, even though this map is not showing it. Same thing with Chernihiv as well. Apparently this front has been making headways, and you can see right here Russian tank moving near Babrovitsa, or Bavrovitsia. So that is just south of Chernihiv. So they may not have colored it in on this map because they're not doing a very good job at updating it, to be quite honest with you. This has been the same thing now for days. But as you can see by their own reports that they put on here, if there's a Russian tank column here, then I would probably try and color that in a little bit faster. But considering how this is filled with pro-NATO propaganda, it doesn't surprise me. So bear that in mind when you go onto the Live UA map. It's still a pretty decent reference. It's probably as good as we got. I did have one lined up here. Let me see if I can find this real quick. And then we're going to get into the YouTuber. 1 second. Let me pop him up real quick. There has been a guy who's been calling out the propaganda. He was in Kiev. I think he's out of there now. His name is Coach Red Pill, and I had my doubts about him at first, but the things that I've been seeing, I've watched all of his content that he has online at the moment, and I think that he was maybe a little bit naive to be talking about this stuff in Kiev, but he called things out for what they are, I believe, and we're going to go through a good bit of it here today because he's currently being targeted. He got his stuff picked up by Russian propaganda, used as quote-unquote pro-Putin stuff, and now he's in real danger in Kiev. And I don't like making stories about the war about certain people, but considering the truth that he was telling over the past few days, I think this is very important, and it shows how the not just Russian, but both sides are using propaganda machines to target this guy. So we will look at that now in a moment. But I wanted to go through, hold on. Let's see. YouTube Vologda mapping. There's been a guy who's he has often made like maps of different wars and things like that, and so he's got a lot of experience. This guy presents what I think to be a more accurate account of what has been happening over the past couple days. This is called Vologda mapping, and we can go through this here now. Just 1 sec, actually. There was a guy that put up all days. Yeah. But I recommend subscribing to this guy. It seems like he has been able to take the news that he gets of different sieges and put it onto the map, which makes a lot more sense. It was about 1 minute and 35 seconds. So he's saying here that this was yesterday, Crimea and Donbass. This is Donbass on the right side, and then Crimea is down on the south side. It looks like they made contact yesterday, and that makes sense to me. They're not updating anything on those live UA maps, but I have a feeling that this is what is in fact going on. See up here as well that this contact, this one claims for contact, but I think at least it's much more accurate than what you're seeing here on the live maps. Just this one piercing front that has been here now for 48 hours or so on this map. I got a feeling this is probably much more accurate over here, that they have now encircled the Chernihiv. The city is right in here, I guess. And they've now encircled that. Kiev is down here, and I got a feeling that that has now been encircled as well. But we can't, I guess he's just going by what we can hear, and they're not saying too much. They also claim that yesterday that it was also the fall of Kherson, which is down here. One sec. There you go. They finally put it in. They finally put this in. They have crossed the river here. I think this is the Dnieper River. And they have gone into the city of Kherson, which is right there, where you see that tank. So, Charkiv is the second largest city. Kiev is the largest city and capital. Chernihiv is one of the largest cities as well. Same thing with Kherson. Mariupol, also the same. Melitopol and Zaporizhia. All of these places. Excluding Zaporizhia. I don't think that's been taken yet. But almost all of the large cities on the eastern side of Ukraine is now either controlled or encircled by Russian forces. You still have Lviv, that is over on this side, and that is that will probably be the longest holdout. That will be where this fight starts getting gritty. But I got a feeling that this advance is far more, for lack of a better words, advanced than what that map is trying to tell you. I think this is probably much more accurate. Mariupol is surrounded. If this is a truer map, Mariupol is surrounded by Russian forces. They also have the naval base. So Russia has had a naval base here for many, many years in Sevastopol. Okay, it's this place right here. So I can only imagine what type of control they have here around the coastlines. I don't know if they'll be able to be reinforced because you have Turkey here that's blocking the Bosphorus Strait. But what they have in here now, I'd say, is providing heavy support and bombardment against Mariupol. And this is where, did you hear where the Ukrainians told the Russian ship to go F itself? It's in that area right there. It's called Snake Island. One important thing to note is that there is a whole bunch of oil right here. Or they found upwards of, I think it's like 1 trillion barrels of oil. Or what they believe to be 1 trillion barrels of oil. So this is a really big reason why Russia would want this area, and for why Ukraine would want to keep it. This is why you send in Hunter Biden in his oil company. It's for this area right here. So that's something to bear in mind. That's a big prize. A big, big prize. So I assume that once this is all said and done, Russia will be annexing that Snake Island area. And that's why they needed to push all that propaganda, which, by the way, talking about the Russian ships being told to go F itself before they all died, apparently that was not true. Apparently the Russians captured them, and they are alive today. Now, I mean, it could be, I can't trust anything on either side, to be honest. Russians lie just as much as the Ukrainian side, or the NATO side, I should say, is probably much more accurate to say that. But, yeah, apparently they didn't die. That heroic tale was just that, a tale. So, yeah. What do you think of that graph, folks? Let me know. I think there's anything that's off on it. Putin gave the go-ahead to hit any logistics coming from Poland once they cross the border. Same with jets from NATO. It's certainly heating up. Yeah, and I got a feeling that the air superiority is actually a lot stronger than I suspect it was before, because I mean, there's so many helicopters, so much bombing that's going on, that I think I've underestimated the air superiority that the Russians have. Ukraine is making up these stories about the ghost of Lviv or ghost of Kiev. Why am I mixing those up today? The ghost of Kiev and things like that. That I believe it could only be for one reason, and that's to kind of feign superiority as opposed to actually having it. So yeah. Let's see. Biden will forget all he said within 5 minutes. Yeah, yeah. That's about right. Welcome to the channel. I give you a wrench. Same thing with Claire Spicer as well. So you can post links and things like that. So yeah. Let's see. FXO Rex says, guys, there's going to be a bioweapon or chem weapon false flag, hence why he's mobilizing the army to be in standby mode. That, I think that's actually a strong possibility, because that would be a great way for so much control measures to go back in, and to be able to maybe sideswipe some blame taken from some jabbage. You know what I mean? As in, like, hey, these chemicals are being released, or maybe Chernobyl, the radiation is getting pushed around the world or something like that. You know what I mean? And that could affect the health of people worldwide. And it would have strangely the same symptoms of as what we're getting with the Zijab, things like that. So that could very well be the case. One second there, guys. Mr. Schumer, don't clap while everyone is booing him. Well, he didn't know, he forgot his cue, right, for when he was supposed to clap. Let's see. Sounds like he keeps admitting thing after thing has only gotten worse, or he's only gotten worse since he's been president, but it's okay because he passed a bill he didn't write. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody else is writing his own job for him. Russia just bombed every biolab in Ukraine, U.S. biolabs. So I don't know. I've been looking up a lot, okay, and I can't find if Russia has bombed it. I don't know yet. But it would sound like it is a great excuse to cover up some evidence. I don't trust like Russia. Like, I know a lot of people are saying Russia is like against the New World Order. Russia is anti-global homo and things like that. I don't trust that. Okay, I think that they are just as controlled opposition as Trump was. Okay, and this would be a great excuse for many different things. First off, they can blame everything on Putin for the economy. Like, we had to put on sanctions because Putin is Hitler, you know, and therefore that's why everybody's economies are failing, you know. Also, you can blame Russia. It's like, oh, whoops, all the evidence of all of the biolabs that we had there That's gone now. And whoops, it's just been all wiped from our websites anyways. I don't know how that happened, but whatever. So I think that there's a lot of great excuses that they can come up with just blaming Russia for everything. Let's see. Oh yeah, thanks. Appreciate the likes, guys. I do indeed. And as you can see, it helped. It helped very much. Got some people in here. Woke some people up. Thank you very much. I most appreciate that. I hate asking for it because it's not my thing. But as long as we got some people listening in, you know. We're going to get into Coach Red Pill now in one moment because this is getting real dangerous for him. And I want to do a quick rundown on this. And maybe if you haven't seen him yet, it would be a good time to do so before he gets pulled, because some of the stuff that he said were great. All right, so been a fan of Coach for 4 years. Interesting. Yeah, he's a fool who always speaks his mind, gets in troubles for it, but is authentic. Yeah, he's got a big mouth, doesn't he? He's got a big mouth, and this is a big deal. What he's done there has been a big deal. Yeah, he's ticked off a lot of people around him, and he may be in some serious danger. Let's see. I just want to quickly get through what I can here. BLB so much Jake says lucky like number 8. Super click party. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Six Child says, well, they're off to an anticipated start. Photos of Ukrainian president from last year. Snake Island soldiers are still alive, and the ghost. Oh yeah. The Ukrainian president. He was doing like an inspection on the border or something like that, wasn't he? Right, and they were claiming that was. What was going on at this present date. And then another thing too, there was bombing. Apparently the Russians bombing some building in Kiev. There was mainstream media that picked that up and claimed that was Palestine, claimed it was Kiev, but it was really bombing from Israel to Palestine from years ago. Right, so they're just like taking whatever they can for this propaganda machine, you know. I don't know if it's 1 trillion barrels. It's a lot of oil, okay? It's a lot of oil, apparently. Like one of the largest oil deposits found. But I don't know if it's 1 trillion, to be honest. It does seem to be too much. Planting my crops this year is going to cost a fortune. Yeah, man, it's good. Food's going to rise for everybody. It's going to rise for everybody. Follow George Webb about Biolabs on Twitter. I'm not sure who that is, but I will check it out indeed. I got some other material as well for you guys later on. Is this the updated invaded part so far? So I would not trust this map anymore. I don't think that it is. I think that it's controlled. You can tell by like a lot of this news feed that comes in. Man, they love putting in these ads too. But you can tell that it is heavily biased towards NATO. Okay, they don't even try to make it seem unbalanced now, or make it sound balanced. I have a feeling that this is probably the closer. This right here is probably much closer to what's actually going on. Okay, we have cities encircled. The advance is much more consolidated, right? Because they've been trying to say that Russia is losing, Russia is failing. If you see a lot of these channels and mainstream media, it's like the resistance is just too strong, right? So if you update this map to show a consolidated front, you're not going to get as many people wanting to fight. And it makes sense, okay? The fact that the Ukrainians, the Ukrainian government, Ukrainian regime, whatever you want to call it, is trying to get people not just within the country, but from outside the country, foreigners, to come fight for them. This is not a good sign, okay? This is already scraping the bottom of the barrel for soldiers, all right? And they need as many people fighting as they can. At least that's what I believe, in order to stop any advance. But if you show that this is a consolidated front and not just a bunch of spearheads, which is very hard to supply, but a consolidated front can be much easier to do so, right? If you're showing this instead of this, right, you may get more people to fight for you. But if you show this, if this is true, if you show it, you're going to get more people running away, okay? And they're not letting people like males leave from, I think, ages 18 to 60. So they're already looking at 60-year-olds. That's already bottom of the barrel, right? Like that's some scary stuff. They know that they're screwed, okay? So they need to lie as much as possible and in a believable as a manner as possible. And therefore, I got a feeling that this map that is constantly putting out NATO propaganda, okay, it's not going to be updated to show how consolidated this advance truly is. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you think about that. Let's get into this guy, because he has been in Kiev, and he was calling out the Ukrainian government for lying. And he said many things that would sound to a NATO ideologue, right? It would sound like it would be pro-Putin, because when you're on Twitter and all these places right now, you're hearing people saying Putin is failing, Putin's a monster and all this kind of stuff. So any talk against that would come off as pro-Putin, because this is how the propagandists have set it up. They've hyper-focused on this personality so someone has something to hate. Like the 5 minutes of hate in 1984, everybody screams at Goldstein. Goldstein. I have a cat trying to get out. I'll have to let him out now one sec. But I don't think he is. I think he's he's a naive guy that thought he was safe to give a balanced account in a war zone. And he spoke a little bit too much truth. And so let's go through this now. And I'll be right back. I just got to let the cat out. But you guys got to hear this. You got to hear this guy. I think he's done a great job at explaining what is going on with propaganda in the media and on Twitter and social media, things like that.
Leadership in the military.
So
today is Saturday, February 26th, and it's the third day of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Now, people in the United States do not seem to understand what is going on insofar as Russia's invasion is concerned, because they keep saying that Russia is failing, which is the weirdest comment. Russia is failing because Russia hasn't taken out the infrastructure of Ukraine, hasn't hit the electrical grid, hasn't destroyed the cell phone towers or the water supply or something like that. It's just remarkable. They keep insisting that the Russians seem to advance and then retreat whenever they meet any resistance. And it's just a failure of imagination on the part of so many American commentators that they do not seem to understand what Russia is really doing with this invasion. Because you see, the American mode of war is to go to a country and destroy everything. Destroy the electrical grid, cell towers, the water supply system, everything. Just destroy the whole thing and then roll in. That's not fighting a war. That's just mopping up the total annihilation of a country. And the United States has done this repeatedly in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, or they semi-tried to do it in Syria. I mean, it's really kind of like a despicable way of making war, right? But what are the Russians doing? Well, see, the Russians, they don't want to destroy Ukraine. No, they don't want to destroy it at all. What they want to do is they want to capture it intact, see? And they don't want to hurt the civilians. Why would they? From their point of view, if they harm civilians, they just create enemies. And so They want to capture Ukraine, change the political leadership of Ukraine, and install a political leadership that is sympathetic to Russia's security needs and is going to be a long-term ally. But they don't want to alienate the Ukrainian population. Because if they alienate the Ukrainian population, well, the Ukrainian population will eventually overthrow this puppet regime. And the Russians want to install a puppet regime. Let's not pretend otherwise. But they want to install a puppet regime whereby the Ukrainian citizens are more or less indifferent to it. They don't want to install a puppet regime after having made the lives of Ukrainians so miserable. So that
See, that makes sense to me, okay? Like, all of these reports about bombing civilian houses and things like that, I'm starting to doubt it. And I'm starting to wonder if Ukraine itself is not taking a part in this so that they can make Russia look as bad as possible. Because it makes no sense if they're trying to reform the country or change it to be more like what Russia wants it to be, right? For whether or not that's a good or bad thing that Russia's doing that is irrelevant. The fact is that they want to do it. And why would they bomb the citizens? Why would they cause unnecessary pain to the citizens, right? When they have to change the mindset of that country. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't think it's a good thing to try and change the will of other people. But we've been seeing with the coup of 2014 by U.S. and CIA into via the National Endowment for Democracy and all their new TV stations that they were putting up in there, and their part that they played in the color revolution that happened in Ukraine, right? It makes we've been seeing this already from the NATO side, trying to do it to Ukraine, and they need to reverse that. Whether you like it or not, they need to reverse that. So this makes perfect sense to me. Like, why would they want to cause unnecessary damage to the nation that they need to reform in their mindset?
That's why they don't want to destroy Ukraine or harm the Ukrainian populace. They want to capture Ukraine intact, change the political leadership, and then let it go. Of course, because they don't want to manage Ukraine. They don't want it to be a burden on them. They don't want that long term. And so what are they doing? They are rapidly invading the whole country, and everybody concedes that they're moving very, very quickly. But they're not hitting any civilian infrastructure. They're only hitting military targets. And they are relentless in hitting the military targets, but always with a certain degree of caution. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But they're hitting military targets. They are avoiding civilian populations and civilian infrastructure. And when they go to a city or a destination, when they encounter any resistance from the Ukrainian army, any serious resistance, they stop and pull back. Because what are they doing? They are encircling. That's their whole strategy. And it's very simple. And if you look at a map, you'd realize it. What the Russians are doing is that whenever they go to a major city like Kiev, like Charkov, and soon enough they're going to be in Dnieper, when they get to those cities, they go up to those cities and they meet some resistance and then they pull back. And they allow their forces to start to surround it. That's the strategy they're employing in Kiev. That's the strategy that they're employing in Charkov. They are encircling these cities, and once they've completely encircled them, what will they do? They'll wait. That's what they'll do. See, if you surround a city, all you have to do is just wait around. Eventually it'll fall, of course. And so the Russians are systematically surrounding all of the major cities, and whenever they come across a smaller town or village, they just advance and cover it and capture it and move on and continue with their advance. Whenever they meet any kind of serious resistance, they stop, pull back, and then encircle. One of the things that they want to capture intact, and people don't seem to realize this, but it's very obvious if you think about it, they are trying to capture the Ukrainian army. That's not why there hasn't been any major battles with, hundreds or thousands of casualties. It's been light skirmishes. For all intents and purposes, the Russian army is tiptoeing into Ukraine. Insofar as air power is concerned, the Russians in the first 3 hours wiped the Ukrainian skies of everything. The Russians own the Ukrainian skies. Any plane flying is Russian. But insofar as their army is concerned, this isn't World War II. This isn't a World War II where the Russian armies were kissing cousins of the Mongol hordes. You know what I'm saying? No, this is the modern Russian army that has the goal of capturing intact Ukraine and the Ukrainian army.
Just real quick, I want to just think about like the propaganda that was put out, and this was not just like, some yahoos on Twitter or the media or something like that, but the actual defense ministry itself talking about the quote ghost of Kiev, which is now proven to be false, right? This person likely did not exist. There was no ace that was downing 6 Russian planes that became 12 Russian planes. This would be the first time that would ever happen in the 21st century. The name itself, the ghost of Kiev, perfect propaganda. Okay, think about it. Like, it's telling the Ukrainians, you may not see it, but it's there. And why would they have to say that? It's because the Russians have full air superiority. They need to make you believe that Kiev has air superiority. And what's the way to establish air superiority is by jet fighters, right? It's not by bombers, right? Bombers are meant to do bombing on the ground, whereas air fighters are the ones that keep the skies clear so that the bombers can do the bombing, right? So you create a propaganda piece called the Ghost of Kiev that is a jet fighter, right? A fighter plane, so that you can make the Kievans and the Ukrainians feel like they still have air superiority rather than actually having it themselves. And all the propaganda that I see, right, it becomes so see-through. Pardon the pun, I know ghost or whatever. It seems like whatever they're lacking, they just try and compensate by making up a propaganda piece that the opposite is true. And this makes a lot of sense to me. I think indeed he's correct in saying that Russians have total air superiority, and you can see that on the map. Even that this map, which is heavily NATO favored, right? Look at this: bomb, red 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 bomb, everywhere. Everywhere you go, red bomb, right? They can't bomb. You cannot bomb anywhere, any targets, without first establishing air superiority. That makes perfect sense.
Because the Russians realize that...
And it's not Russian propaganda. It's not pro-Russian to point out that fact, right? That's what they were trying to do. Russian media started picking up this video, which is a very clear and succinct explanation of why they're winning. But just because you're saying Russia's winning doesn't mean that you're pro-Russia. It's just pointing out the facts for what they are. Anyways, let's let him continue, because he's got some great stuff in this.
Once they have captured Ukraine and changed the political leadership, they will need an army to protect and look after the Ukrainian state and the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian land. They don't want to destroy the Ukrainian army. They could do that if they wanted to. They would have done that already. They own the skies over Ukraine. Their goal is to capture Ukraine, capture the Ukrainian army with as little casualties as possible to the Ukrainian army. And that's why whenever they come up against serious Ukrainian resistance, they keep consistently pulling back. And in the West, this is interpreted as the Russians are weak, which is so weird. It's like the Russians are so weak, they're not advancing as fast. I mean, well, that is a separate issue that I'm going to get to in just a moment. But the Russians are so weak because they're not obliterating the Ukrainian army. Because that's what the Americans do. They obliterate anything that crosses their path. Friend or foe, they don't really care. But the Russians do care. That's why they're not obliterating the Ukrainian army when they could.
He's not wrong there either. Remember the Iraq War, like the first days of the Iraq War, you remember shock and awe? Like if I were to look up shock and awe right now, you would basically see the air raids that the Americans did on Baghdad. Remember the whole song by Outkast, Bombs Over Baghdad? That's what it's talking about. It was about blowing up basically everything in the area, which is a despicable tactic, to be honest. I mean, they have the reasons for doing it. They're not looking to take Iraq in the same way, right? The Russians need Ukraine intact, like he's saying, and not necessarily, or as little anti-Russian sentiment as possible, so they can't do that. It's not just a moral thing, but a strategic thing to not blow it up. Whereas the Americans didn't need to care. So I mean, there's reasons why they do that. It's to knock things out and make the invasion as fast as possible for them. But it's not in the best interest, be it moral or strategic, for Russia to do that.
A friend of mine, Alex Christoforou, in the Duran, great show, he pointed out something that I'd never considered, which is very obvious. He pointed out the fact that, you see, the current Ukrainian leadership in the military, the generals in Ukraine, they went to military academies with the generals of the Russian armies. They're drinking buddies since when they were back in like 18-year-old, 19-year-old plebes. They know each other. They don't want to kill each other. Of course not. I mean, you've got some buddy when you were drinking out when you were 18, right? You want to kill him? No, you could be on opposing sides of whatever contest, but you don't want to hurt him. Of course not. You'll be pissed off at him maybe, but you don't want to kill him. The Russian army doesn't want to destroy the Ukrainian army. They could have done it already in these 3 days of combat. Once the Russians owned the skies over Ukraine, they could have done whatever they wanted with the Ukrainian army. They could have annihilated it, just blown it to smithereens, and blown away the entire population of Ukraine if they wanted to. They could cause a major, major humanitarian crisis if they wanted to, and they obviously don't. How do I know this? Because they haven't done it. They have had the opportunity for 3 days to do it, and they haven't done it. I'm doing this stupid video from a hotel room in downtown Kiev, and I'm going to upload it to the internet. Do you think I'd be able to do it if the Russians were really serious about conquering Ukraine? They want to capture it. Understand that. And understand that you in the West, you are being goaded into thinking that Putin and the Russians are like evil antichrist. You don't understand why the Russians are invading. And your political leadership, Boris Johnson, Joe Biden, all these people, they don't want you to understand. Of course not. They want you to just demonize, just to take the easy way out. They want you to imagine that this is a Marvel comic book movie and that, there are white hats and black hats, good guys and bad guys. Yeah, we got to kill the bad guys because we're the good guys. Yeah.
He nailed it here. He nailed it here. They do not want you to know what led up to this point. Okay, and I got another video about this early because the events that led up to this, we've talked about a good bit of it before, like with the Donbass region and Odessa, all of these different the coup that was staged. We've talked about this already. This is a very complex history that has led up to this point, and because there's so much U.S. involvement and CIA involvement, NATO involvement in what has led up to this point, if you sit down and look at the facts, you can see that this isn't just Putin bad, West is good, therefore we're on the right side and you need to support them, right? This is what they want you to think. And it's not pro-Russia to say that. Someone just mentioned in chat, Knox try, all leaders are just NWO puppets. I 100% agree with that. I don't side with Russia, but the pretense that this is just some wonderful and brave resistance against the next Hitler or something like that is absolutely false. It's anybody who sits down and takes a look at this can see that there is far more justification for what is going on with Russia than what they're trying to have you believe. Does that mean that they're not part of the same, they're cogs in the same wheel? Does that mean that they're not cogs in the same wheel? No. I have a feeling that there was a reason why this happened now. It's part of a course of events that was initiated since the whole outbreak from the Wuhan lab. Okay? And I think that this was perfectly timed to cover up any resistance against this, what they literally say is a new world order. And we'll get into, I have another video on that too. I'll show you what Ukraine is literally referring to the West's new way of things, building back better, as the new world order. They literally said that. Okay, so don't get me wrong. I'm not Russia. I don't care about Russia. I don't think that Russia is the good side in all this. But when you sit down and look at this, you can't say that Russia was completely unjustified and unprovoked in this. It was obvious on face value, looking at the geopolitical, what they want us to consume, right? They have far more justification than what they're saying. And this is just how they're getting two sides to go against each other, of course. But it's not just some innocent Ukraine has been obliterated or been invaded by the Russian armies. There's been a very clear course of events that shows that Ukraine is no innocent saint in all of this.
It's so naive. The Russians don't want to harm Ukraine. They would have destroyed Ukraine if they wanted to. But they don't. They want to capture it in one piece. Now, you can say that Russia's motivations are this, that, the other. It doesn't matter. You have to look at the practical reality that is taking place now. What really bothers me, and perhaps this isn't a wise thing for me to say while I'm still in Ukraine under the Zelensky regime. What really bothers me is that the Zelensky regime has no trouble causing a humanitarian crisis. In fact, they welcome a humanitarian crisis. They would love to see dead Ukrainians. And I know this for a fact. And do you know how I know this for a fact? Because the Zelensky government has been handing out AK-47s willy-nilly to the civilian population. As I understand it, they've already handed out 10,000 AK-47s and munitions to match. Now, you see, if you've never had any kind of military experience, you, with a weapon like that, you can become extremely dangerous to all the people around you and to yourself. It takes training to operate a firearm. You have to know what you're doing.
There are also reports right now, I got that in the news feed in the description, that there's been a friendly fire clash. Now, I can't verify this, right? Where this is just, like, this is the nature of war. We hear these reports. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's true, but it is believable. Or at least plausible, let's just say that civilian militias that have been armed by Ukraine have already been in a clash with Ukrainian army platoons because they have mistaken each other as the enemy, right? And it's easy to see how that's possible, because you have the lockdowns in Kiev, right? And then you still have these fighters out there. And how does the Ukrainian army... how are they able to distinguish these people, many of these people, especially if you're just randomly giving out guns and it gets to gangs and things like that, right? How do you distinguish these people from saboteurs? They all have AK-47s. It's a Russian gun, right? So I think he's right in this as well. I have a feeling, and it's not me that thought of this either. This is after doing my research or whatever, that this is intentionally done to create deaths of Ukrainian citizens so that Ukraine can blame it on Russia, because they know they're screwed. So now all they can play is the propaganda game to make Russia look as bad as possible, right? So you give these people who don't know how to fight, they have no tactics, you give them guns, right? And then it causes extreme amounts of chaos, more deaths than need to be, and then you can just blame it all on the Russians.
It's not a casual thing, okay? It's not like in the movies. It's very, very dangerous. And you can harm yourself before you harm anybody else. And the harm you can cause to others is, it's incalculable, and you can't take it back. Now, the Zelensky regime is handing out these weapons, teaching people how to use Molotov cocktails, how to make Molotov cocktails and use them themselves. They want to foment the people to fight the war against the Russians. And the thing is, the Russians have professional soldiers. Now, these professional soldiers, they carry a weapon. They know what to do with the weapon. If they see somebody armed, be it a man in a uniform or just a civilian with an AK-47, well, they're going to shoot him, okay? And so that civilian will be dead. And that will present a great photo op now, won't it? So that Zelensky can wrangle some European country or the Americans or whomever to come in and get involved in this war and potentially escalate the situation to levels that are unimaginable. The Zelensky regime is doing something frankly evil, because it is evil to put civilians, to encourage civilians to do something that incredibly dangerous and irresponsible. The Zelensky regime has also put heavy weaponry in civilian population centers. Now, these heavy weapons, howitzers and whatnot, they're dangerous. And so the Russian army...
Okay, what he's talking about right here, I have a picture of this. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Just give me a second. I tell you, well, while this is loading. Hold on. Just let him go.
Army has every right and obligation to destroy such heavy weapons. But of course, when trying to destroy such weapons, it's inevitable that you're not going to quite hit the weapons when you try to aim for them. You're going to hit around the weapons. And therefore, if these weapons are in the middle of apartment complexes, you're going to have Russians shelling apartment complexes, killing innocent civilians. The Zelensky regime is putting these weapons in the middle of populated areas precisely because they want to have this happen. And I'll tell you something else that the Zelensky regime is doing. They are forcibly conscripting men between the ages of 18 and 60. They are not allowing them to leave the country, and if they try to leave the country, they are arrested and forcibly conscripted, that is, forcibly put into the Ukrainian army. Now, what has happened because of this? Well, just about every man between the ages of 18 and 60 is running away from the cities. That's why there are so many refugees. It's not that they're seriously thinking that the Russians are going to shell and destroy their apartments or their homes or whatnot. They're afraid of getting arrested and forcibly conscripted. The women and the young children and old men are having to hide these men who are between the ages of 18 and 60. And by the way, this isn't something that I heard. People that I know personally, people that I do business with, I know them. I've gone drinking with them, eating with them, doing deals with them. They've had to leave Kiev for fear of being forcibly pressed into the Ukrainian army. Middle-aged men, farts like me, who are out of shape, we're real good at some business deal, but crappy at carrying a backpack and a weapon, with no experience whatsoever in such activity. And the Ukrainian government, the Zelensky regime, is doing this.
And that makes sense. You don't have to just take his word for it. You can see what they're saying on the media. Like they're talking about, hold on, let's see if we can find this real quick. Ukraine releasing criminals, conscripts. Let's see if we can find this real quick. Yeah, they're saying it like I wanted to find like maybe. All right, Newsweek. I guess we'll take it. You can look it up later myself. I didn't have it lined up here, but Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said he will be releasing prisoners who have real combat experience so they can assist with the war in Russia. Right? You don't do this unless you are dying for soldiers. You need as much as you can. Okay, right? And they're talking about accepting foreigners to go fight for them, so flooding in a whole bunch of immigrants, right? So they can go die for them, right? Why wouldn't they be forcibly conscripting? And it's not like they would be the first people to do that. One of the biggest things that in the Korean War, when Korea was getting basically pushed into, because like the Korean War was friggin' crazy, right? When the North invaded, they pushed Korea back to just one little tiny area in the south part. It was called Busan. And their backs were completely against the wall before U.S. invaded Incheon. And they started doing the same thing. They would go into a bus, go wherever they could, or military police and police officers, and they would find whoever they possibly could to fight, and they would take them off that bus and send them into military training. Right? This is what was happening there. It's not the first time that this would happen. And if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel already for soldiers as old as 60 or just under 60, right? Why wouldn't they be doing this, right? So this is why this regime, and that's what it is a regime, all right, is so evil. And they had a choice to make. They could have allowed Donetsk and Luhansk to vote on whether or not they wanted to stay in Ukraine, or they could join NATO and break the Minsk agreement, which gave Russia casus belli to invade, right? But they put themselves in this situation themselves. And now what they're doing is forcibly conscripting. They're pulling every trick in the book. I don't know, I'll show this picture again. They're putting howitzers in the middle of, look, this is not, these are not military bases, folks. These are residential homes. This is a football field here. Anyways, let's let him continue. Still a couple minutes left.
Why do you think they're doing it? Well, first of all, you don't forcibly conscript men into your army if you think that you're winning. Now, do you? Of course not. Number one. And number two, by having this forcible conscription, you scare all the men and you create, all on your own, a whole class of refugees, of people fleeing the cities. They're not afraid of the Russians. They're afraid of the Ukrainian regime that is trying to press them into service. That's what's going on. And so you see all the video images of people fleeing the city, and you in the West, you in the United States and Western Europe think, oh, they're afraid of the Russians. No, they're afraid of the Zelensky regime. But I have to say that the issue of handing out weapons to civilians who don't know how to handle them, that is the thing I find most despicable. Because they are willing to have these poor civilians who know nothing of weaponry become martyrs. Because the Russian soldiers who see some civilian with a gun, well, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to shoot him. And that innocent civilian who doesn't even know how to hold the damn weapon is going to die needlessly for nothing, for absolutely nothing. And I find that despicable. I find that truly evil. Also, the Zelensky regime can get a nice photo op. That's what's going on. And if you want to say that the message I'm saying is pro-Russian or pro-Putin or I'm a Putin stooge or useful idiot or whatever, fine. I don't care. I mean, I don't really care your opinion, man. I don't give a fuck what you think about me. I'm telling you the truth. I'm here. I'm here in Kiev, in the downtown, waiting for the Russians to invade the damn place, huh? So I know what I'm talking about. None of this stuff is appearing in the mainstream media now, is it? Huh? Because I'm not following the American or European mainstream media because I know it's just a pack of lies. But probably what I'm saying in this video, you haven't heard it. Well, now you're hearing it. And think a little bit, huh? I mean, in this channel, what have I always told you, stupid motherfuckers, huh? Think for yourself. Think. Look at the information that you have available and ask yourself why something is happening the way it's happening. It's not arbitrary. It's not by chance. People have thought through what they are doing. The Russians have certainly thought through what they're doing. The best that we can hope for is that the Zelensky regime fails in its attempt to wrangle in the Europeans and the Americans into this war, and the Zelensky regime collapses or flees or whatever, and Russia is able to take Ukraine in one piece without harming too many people. And that's the best that we can hope for. Or if not, the whole country will be destroyed. Millions of people will be displaced, hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions killed. And this is the exact same thing that happened in Iraq. Let's hope that we don't have a second Iraq.
So that's that. So the fallout from this video, he has been basically relentlessly attacked from all angles of propaganda. You can follow his story. I got his channel here for you. We're not going to go through these big long ones, but I highly recommend after this live stream, go check him out. Okay, these videos are worth the 4 hours that he's put up here, the stuff that he talks about. He repeats himself a little bit, but he's trying to get a point across, right? Now, since then, he was in a hotel in Kiev. In one of these, I think it was this video here, he actually gets kicked out. It's not live, but he gets kicked out of this place because They didn't want to support a Putin supporter. They didn't want to lodge a Putin supporter. He got contacted by the manager. He came up to him and kicked him out, right? He finds another place to stay or whatnot. But what happened was Russian media picked this up and started using it to denounce Ukraine, US, stuff like that, right? And I guess you can see where like they could spin that, right? But I don't hear him being pro-Putin. He's just pointing things out as they are, okay? And there is a reason why, and welcome Bucho74. It has been 6 days, and my channel, or your channel, is the first I found that is critical of Ukraine. Please let me and others in the U.S. what channels and websites we can get to see more content like mine. That's a great one to go to. So again, I'm not pro-Russia. I think that this has been a contrived campaign to get us all hating each other, getting us used to more chaos, more strife, more stratification in the world, right? In order to make us more susceptible to a quote-unquote new world order. As I'm going to show you right now, we got this. We got this chick here. Let's see. You got to check this out. This is a pretty decent channel as well. I don't agree with everything that he says. Matrix the Beast System. I'll give you the link now in 1 second to this video. We'll just let that play.
For the rest of us that aren't Ukrainians, I think the world, quite frankly, Kira, is surprised by the will of the Ukrainian people to stand up and fight. Are you?
These talking heads sending people to their deaths, right? These guys are scraping out people just under 60 to go fight. They're forcibly conscripting people, at least allegedly, and I don't see a reason why one would doubt that, to be honest. They're trying to get foreigners to come in and fight for them, right? They're sending people to their deaths, bringing out criminals out of prisons.
Well, I'm not surprised. We have been fighting Putin for the last 8
Wow, what a photo op. Amazing. You're so brave.
years, and we had 3 revolutions in our country when we did not agree with what was going on with the direction of where we're moving in.
No, when you had the CIA come in through the National Endowment for Democracy and start a color revolution there, and they played you like a friggin' fiddle is what they did. It wasn't fighting for your democracy. They were subverting your democracy.
But right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries.
Oh, yes, I'm sure you just thought of that. That was an original thought that came out of your head, prostitute.
We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
Talking about new world orders. Yeah, okay, amazing. So yeah, this is who you guys are fighting and dying for if you support Ukraine. Well, let's put it this way: 99% of you haven't even thought about going to Ukraine to fight, have you? You just want to put on a blue and yellow flag on your display pic and say the Putin's failing because that's what you've been told to do. But anyways, before I finish up on this guy, I want to go through this because he's now had to denounce that. The Russian propaganda that is now putting his life in danger. So it's not just one side. The propaganda is on both sides. And I think they're two cogs working against each other, but still propelling the same wheel. Okay?
They say that the truth is the first to die in any war. Very wise words. Last night, as a matter of fact, I became aware of a video circulating that used my content to make points that I had never made. It is a video that is playing right now on Russian television as well as Ukrainian television. It's a Russian language piece that is clearly propaganda masquerading as news. And it names me as an American analyst and claims using my content, my video image, but not my words. It claims that I make certain points that I have never made. some of these points are extremely insulting to the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian nation, as well as the Ukrainian armed forces. I have never made such points, ever. I've never said such things as are portrayed in this video. You see, these propagandists were very clever. They took content that I had made and they cut it deceptively to make it seem that I was saying something completely different. And at the same time, they also used a translator who changed the words I was using in some subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways to make it seem that I was essentially insulting the Ukrainian nation, the Ukrainian people, and the Ukrainian armed forces. I was not aware of this until literally just a few moments ago. A few moments ago, some people explained to me exactly what the video alleged I was saying. And I never said anything remotely like what this video claims I'm saying. And see, these propagandists are very clever because they realize that people aren't going to check the original source material. Because they use my name and they use my video image clipped from 2-hour-long live streams where I analyze in great detail the current conflict that's going on. And so, of course, most people, the vast majority of people, do not have the time to go through 2 hours in potentially a foreign language to them to find out exactly what I said. And so these propagandists in this 6-minute video clip that is playing repeatedly on Russian television and Ukrainian television, it claims that I am saying things that I never said, things that are insulting and deeply hurtful to the pride and honor of the Ukrainian people. I denounce this propaganda. And fortunate for me, I have the live streams where you can see that I never said anything remotely like what is portrayed that I said in this propaganda. My sole interest in talking about the current conflict is to, number one, find the truth of what is actually happening, and number two, to make valid judgments, logical inferences with the information at hand, so as to be able to hopefully have insights into the future as to what might come. I'm not interested in making content that denigrates or insults anyone from any side. I am not a cheerleader for one side or another. I am not an apologist or a propagandist. Anyone who's seen my content knows that I try to judge everyone as even-handedly as possible. There are certain people and certain nations that I can admire the strategies and tactics that they have used, but that does not mean that I endorse them. I don't endorse any side. I simply try to understand what is going on. And this is very different. And it's very important that I...
And it is very different. And we'll leave it at that because basically he's already made a statement. But they've riled people up so much now that if you don't fully support what's going on or what Ukraine is doing, then you must be the enemy, right? This is the radicalization that is laid totally at the hands. The blood is on the hands of the media. Okay? Like, this is what's been going on. The media has been making tried attempts to radicalize us against each other. I'm not going for Putin. I do not care about Putin. I do not support Putin. I think he's another cog in the wheel, right? But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be calling out the Zelensky. It's not just Zelensky. He's just another puppet too, right? The forces that are behind Ukraine as they were shelling the people of the Donbass region. There's another thing I wanted to give you a link to. I don't even know if I can. It's an Odyssey one. So when I put it in the text, hold on, let me see if I can get it into the chat. 1 second. Yeah, the link for Coach Red Pill is right here for those that are asking in the chat. Hold on, I'm gonna pin this up. There you go. So yeah, Fisher Strong, welcome to the channel. Have yourself a wrench so that you can pass out links. Let's see if I can get that in there. What will happen? Okay, yeah, I think that's it. I cannot show this video on YouTube. I will get pulled if I do, but it's called Ukraine Crisis Donbass, Chronicle of Genocide. You can look that up if that link doesn't work. I can't show it. I hope I can just get to one decent one here. So this is showing what the Ukrainian army has done to homes in the Donbass region, which is, I think there's at least 4 million people living in this area. There has been 14,000 deaths reported, and if you have a weak stomach, then maybe you shouldn't watch this video, because you see there's so many. I can't show this because there's so many dead bodies that are a result of the Ukrainian army bombing this area of Ukraine that wants to secede from Ukraine. But because there's so many resources there, and in this as well, you can see the same TV stations that the NED funded, the National Endowment for Democracy, which is a CIA front group. They have some television stations that all magically popped up in 2014, right? And they started memeing the color revolution into existence, okay? And on this same channel, you can see them talk about how the people in Donbass are irrelevant. Donbass should only be used for its resources, and they were saying out of 4 million people, 1.4 million of them are irrelevant. Like, you had this soy boy cuck talking about genocide in this area. Donbass is filled with ethnic Russians, and they were literally talking about killing them so they can get to the resources. Right? Now, again, it's my opinion that it's two false fronts fighting against each other so we can kill each other off. Okay? So I'm not saying that, Russia good, Ukraine bad. I'm saying they're all bad. They're all driving us to kill each other and radicalize each other, right? But when someone wants to tell you that Ukraine should be supported, go look into this video. There's an hour and 37 minutes of footage. Some of it will make you sick. Some of it will make you cry. There's children that have been bombed. People that have lost legs, lost their lives, lost their homes, lost their livelihoods. They've lost everything because some rich fucks want to make some money off the resources over in the Donbass region. And they don't care how many people die on either side, because you have Russia also radicalizing them to be against Ukraine as well. But this is what's going on. And I'm lucky that I only got a burned house here, because I could have been taken off YouTube. I was stupid for even showing clips of this. But check that out for yourself. If you can't click that link that I just posted, Ukraine Crisis, Donbass, Chronicle of Genocide. This is from 2014, and it's been ongoing since. Here's another one that I want to show you as well, and we'll get into the chat then. I don't know how long I'm staying on for today. I don't want to be too late on this, because there's a lot of information in this, and I would like to leave it a little bit palatable for people, not make it like a 7-hour stream. 1 second. This is the Odessa massacre. Odessa is on the southwest part of Ukraine. This is where very close, like Snake Island, that propaganda piece. It's off of that region, and there was a place where the pro-Kiev protesters forced a bunch of these, like the Russian speakers, right? They forced a bunch of them into a building to take refuge from violence, and then lit up the building on fire and shot and beat and killed people who tried to run out of it afterwards. This part this is from YouTube. It's from a channel called Storm Clouds Gathering. This is he released this in 2014. This is when it was happening. Storm Clouds Gathering. I don't know how much he posts anymore. It was a really good channel back in the day. So hold on, I'll get you the link for this video now. Hold on, and then we'll just watch it, because what happened in Odessa was a massacre, and they're still to this day covering it up and defending it on these National Endowment for Democracy TV channels in Ukraine.
March 2nd, 2014, over 40 people were murdered in Odessa, Ukraine. Some eyewitnesses claim that the real number is over 100. Some of the victims were burned alive, others were strangled or beaten to death. A pregnant woman was among those killed. I'm not going to show the images of the dead bodies directly in this video because doing so would either get the video blocked or age restricted. In the description you'll find a link to a page where you can view those images and videos if you're so inclined. I warn you though, they are truly horrific and should not be viewed in front of children. Now the mainstream media and Western politicians have glossed over what happened that day. They've attempted to blur the chain of events and have completely avoided condemning those responsible. Instead, they've blamed the anti-Kiev protesters and Russia for the violence. But what about that video that showed the anti-Kiev protesters firing automatic weapons during the clash? You're probably thinking about this video. This is the video that the corporate media outlets broadcasted to the public, which shows what appears to be anti-Kiev protesters firing on Maidan protesters on May 2nd. Open and shut case, right? These guys brought this on themselves. If you just saw this clip, that would be the obvious conclusion. However, this isn't the only clip that we have. We have quite a bit of footage that the mainstream media isn't showing you, and that footage tells a very, very different story. Here's that same scene with the shooter videotaped from a different angle. Now pay close attention to the people he's with. The red armbands these guys are wearing are supposed to symbolize the anti-Kiev contingent. In particular, pay attention to this man in the brown jacket. Also take note of this padding that he's carrying in his right hand. This guy with the brown jacket is important, and you'll see why when we show you the next clip. This next clip I'm going to show you first at normal speed, then we're going to slow it down and freeze frames to point out important details.
Пострадал начальник милиции общественной безопасности Фучиджи. У него ранение в руку. Полковник Фучиджи с окровавленной рукой, ему оказывается помощь на месте.
Now, if we freeze this frame, the man in the back of the ambulance that invites the police officer to get in looks an awful lot like the shooter. But this is a very brief scene and the image isn't clear enough to hang a case on it. However, what we see next is very clear. Remember the man with the brown suit and the odd padding that was in the contingent that was firing on the protesters? Here he is again, helping a police officer get into that ambulance, carrying that masked man. Notice the men with red armbands with him. It turns out we have lots of images and footage tying the police to this provocation. The officer being escorted to the ambulance was photographed and videotaped from multiple angles. Witnesses have identified him as Colonel Fusheji. Here we see him and other police consulting with masked men who are presenting themselves as anti-Kiev protesters. Here we have an unidentified officer giving instructions to a group of these masked men. Why would the Ukrainian provisional government work with thugs presenting themselves as the opposition? Why would they stand by and allow these thugs to escalate the situation by firing into the crowd and then flee the scene with them? Doesn't that strike you as a little bit odd? This is a very old tactic. The technical term, which has been in use since the 1870s, is agent provocateur. That's French for provoking agent. Authorities use agent provocateurs when they want to manufacture a justification for a crackdown against their opponents. And boy did they capitalize on that justification in Odessa. The Maidan protesters, which eyewitnesses say outnumbered the anti-Kiev protesters 10-1, headed straight for the opposition's campground.
So there's one guy with a gun there, right? One glowy from the CIA likely, or whatever. Could be on the Russian side as well, considering how I strongly believe that it's two sides of the same wheel, right? They send in one guy showing a gun, one big intimidating looking dude with a gun, right? And they use that as reason to kill all of these people.
First, they burned down their tents. The anti-Kiev protesters tried to put up a defense at the door, but the Maidan crowd began throwing Molotov cocktails. Soon the building was engulfed in flames, but the Maidan people didn't stop. Here's what the scene looked like on the ground. You can hear the crowd cheering as they set the building ablaze. In the full version of the video, the Maidan can be seen beating those who try to escape. Here you can see a Maidan activist shooting at those trying to escape from the windows. There was a fire station less than a kilometer away, but they didn't intervene for hours. Why? Here's why. The Maidan crowd blockaded the fire truck and wouldn't let the firefighters operate. It's not unclear how the fire started, as the mainstream media has been trying to convince you, nor is it unclear who started the fire.
It's like a BLM rally. Except BLM has communist leanings whereas these guys are more fascist leaning, the Kievan ones, these ones here creating the Molotovs. But it doesn't matter. The ideology doesn't matter, all right? This is why, like, this whole commies versus fascists and Nazis or whatever, it doesn't matter. Both of them are used by the same people to promote radicalization.
Here we see a group of Maidan girls doing their part by filling up Molotov cocktails behind the scenes while the boys are busy using them to burn people alive. This wasn't a tragic accident. This was murder. One of the official YouTube channels for the Maidan, Euromaidan PR, uploaded this video right after the blaze where they do a walkthrough of the building examining the corpses. They entitled it "Russian Terrorists Burned Alive in the Trade Union Building Fire in Odessa, Ukraine, May 2nd, 2014. They were proud of what they did, and they weren't the only ones. Following is a screenshot I took from a public post on Facebook made by the Ukrainian nationalist Irina Faryon, who publicly commended the murderers. All over the internet, self-proclaimed fascists were hailing this as a victory for the extreme right. A victory over who? There were no Russian citizens among the dead. They were all Ukrainians. I'm not going to show you the video that they uploaded. It's far too graphic. Again, you'll find a link in the description to watch it if you're so inclined.
It's because Odessa and that area, it has a strong, I don't know if they're the majority, but it's a large minority of Russian-speaking people, mother language Russian, right? So just because they say Russian terrorists, but they're just citizens of Ukraine, like many in the east and the southeast, and I guess you can call Odessa southwest. Not really. It's all basically in the east and the south. But they are. They have a lot of Russian culture. They speak Russian, right? And they just push them all off as Russian terrorists, right? These dehumanizing terms is what's going on here.
As horrific as the video is, it's a bit deceptive because it doesn't show the pregnant woman who was killed upstairs. Her body wasn't burned at all. She appeared to have been strangled to death. What's even more disturbing is that there was video taken from the ground which captured the audio of her screaming in her final moments. After the screaming stopped, Maidan activists presented themselves at the window, gleefully waving the Ukrainian flag. During all of this, the police were standing by and did nothing. There was no investigation. In fact, the provisional government in Kiev has blamed the anti-Kiev protesters for the fire and arrested the survivors. Apparently, these people burned themselves to death and strangled their own people. Right. Does this all seem out of place with the narrative you've been handed for months by the media and the politicians? You believed them when they told you that the accusations that the Maidan was run by neo-Nazis were just baseless conspiracy theories.
Look at this. These torches, right? These are the people, the ones, like the same people in America and in the West that are supporting Ukraine are the same ones that flipped out in Charlottesville for holding tiki torches. Right? And they're doing this intentionally, right? Like they're just flipping ideology so that we can switch over and say, oh, well, these ones are actually fine, right? Because they're stopping Russian terrorists. But we also have to kill the right-wingers and stuff, like they are, terrorist insurgents and stuff like that over here, right? And this is all purposeful, right? The ideology doesn't matter. What matters is that everybody, or as many as people as possible, are radicalized so that they can go into a hive mind, collectivist mentality against each other and start killing each other. This is all done by the same people. The same people. The same money behind National Endowment for Democracy are the same people that are behind Tides Foundation, behind the trucker convoy. Okay, we went through this in the last live stream that I did yesterday, or a couple days ago now. I'm not saying that there isn't legitimate reason to be against the Canadian government and supporting the convoy or whatnot. What I'm saying is that it has been controlled from the ground up, or from the top down is probably a better way to put it. And they are getting us painted all as one supporter of one thing or another and turning us all into ideologues against each other. And they did the same thing here. This is the trial run for us.
Theories. Even though the BBC was reporting on their rise back in 2012. In that first report, they specifically placed attention on a group called Svoboda, led by a man named Oli Tyanibok. In that article, they referred to Svoboda as a proto-fascist organization, and they covered Tyanibuk's long history of targeting Jews and ethnic Russians. They pointed out that in 2004 he was kicked out of Viktor Yushchenko's government for making a speech calling for Ukrainians to fight against a, quote, Muscovite Jewish mafia. And in 2005 he signed his name to an open letter to the leadership of Ukraine entitled Stop the Criminal Activities of Organized Jewry. Here's that same Oli Tyanibuk rubbing shoulders with John McCain. And here with U.S. State...
Oh, imagine my shock. With John McCain, the same one that was stoking the protests in 2014. Now, this is in Odessa, but there was also the Euromaidan, which happened. Like, these are the same people that just burned down that place in Odessa, but in Kiev is where that big riot was. Okay, and that was a color revolution that deposed. Oh my goodness, what's his name? Yushchenko. Over there, they were. You had John McCain go and speak at these protests, or riots, or revolution, whatever you want to call it. Victoria Nuland was also behind it, right? And there he is.
Here's that same Oli Tyanibuk rubbing shoulders with John McCain. And here with U.S. State Department diplomat Victoria Nuland. That's the same Victoria Nuland that was caught in a leaked phone call talking about installing Arseniy Yatsenyuk to run the provisional government.
Svoboda is a fascist group. It is a fascist group. They're not as... They like to hide their symbolism a little better than, say, the Azov Battalion, who literally uses a black sun, which is like a straight-up Nazi sign. Right? But Svoboda is indeed a fascist group. And they have a considerable following and party membership.
And Tyanibuk is just one of several known neo-Nazis currently holding high office in Kiev. For example, Dmitry Yarosh, a prominent right sector leader who was installed as Ukraine's Deputy Secretary of National Security. But don't take my word for it. Go read what the BBC said about these people back in 2012. Go look at this article from Reuters, which acknowledges that these guys are well positioned in the current government. Then, if you've got the guts, go look at the photos from the crime scene in Odessa. If you do, you'll understand that what we're dealing with here isn't just a few politicians with offensive opinions. These guys are the real deal. These are neo-Nazi fascists who are willing to murder anyone who gets in their way. The US and the EU are backing them, and the corporate media is covering up their crimes. But why would these guys resort to the kind of brutality we saw in Odessa? It wasn't very smart. The images in the video of the crime scene have gone viral. That's a public relations disaster that will have lasting consequences. Why would they do something like this? Because they're running out of options. There's a rebellion spreading all across Ukraine. And in spite of what the corporate media has been trying to sell you, these aren't pro-Russian protesters. The people don't trust the coup-appointed government, and they don't want to live under its rule. What they're asking for is a federal system comprised of states with a certain degree of autonomy, kind of like what the United States used to be. Kiev has ordered the military to put down the rebellion 3 times already, but only a fraction of the Ukrainian military has been willing to fire on its own people. Not only have the troops refused to fight, but many have switched sides and are now fighting for the resistance. Others are on the fence, contemplating turning their guns on Kiev, and saying so publicly.
Mr. Yatsenyuk and company. Еще там Большое вам спасибо за зарплату 1300 гривен за 1 месяц. Поверьте мне стыдно. Вы меня слышите? Задумайтесь, потому что мы можем повернуть колонну на вас.
That's another thing, too. I wonder, has this been fixed? Because he was just complaining about his pay. Hryvnia is the currency there, right? I'm sure you could deduce that. But I wonder how the army feels about this. Were they getting paid enough? And I wonder, now that we have Canada and all these other ones, just before this war started, we had Canada and a bunch of other countries send a whole truckload of money over to Ukraine. And let's a couple different things here. Who was it funding? City News, Azov Battalion. Here you go. This is from 3 months ago. City News, which is a clown organization here.
An unusual meeting in June. we probably don't want to be rubbing shoulders with organized far-right militant groups that have, that are very open about it. I mean, you could go right now and view on YouTube their videos of their trainings, the very forward symbolism. They're not hiding this stuff.
And it's not just paramilitary, by the way. This is going to be about the Azov Battalion. Just to let you know, that place that we were looking at before, in Mariupol, which is currently being surrounded, at least I believe it to be surrounded, and not as a good a map for the NATO forces as you think, but they're now trapped in Mariupol. Azov Battalion is not just some paramilitary or some militia group like they're trying to paint it out to be here. They are part of the National Guard of Ukraine now. Okay? They were committing what I believe to be genocidal atrocities on Donetsk here. Okay? And they were being funded by the Ukraine government, and Canada's people, Canada's government officials were meeting with them.
Canadian diplomats and soldiers in Ukraine took an unusual meeting in June of 2018, one that's now coming to light. It was a meeting with one of the paramilitary units raised to fight off the Russian invasion of Ukraine's eastern provinces.
Not paramilitary, National Guard.
Unit, the Azov Battalion, has been linked to neo-Nazism, and the Canadian military knew.
Look at this. Look at this.
Eastern provinces.
Just a second.
One problem. That unit, the Azov Battalion, has been...
That's straight out of friggin' Nuremberg, man. Like not the trials. I'm talking about the rallies that happened in Nuremberg. Hold on. Nuremberg rally Nazi. Whatever. There's a nighttime one as well. I can't really find it real quick, but like you see the parallels, right? They have the big open areas. They did have torches at one point, right? In the nighttime, right? They're using the exact same tactics. It's probably the same Vatican scumbags or what little hat scumbags that you want to, whatever, that are probably funding this stuff to radicalize us.
Neo-Nazism, and the Canadian military knew.
Велику, могутню і соборну. Слава нації!
Yeah, and you know now, and you also know that they're not just paramilitary, and you're still supporting them. So I stand with Ukraine.
An Ottawa Citizen report says Canadian forces in Ukraine produced a briefing in 2017 saying members of the Azov Battalion identified...
What's that called again? The wolf's foot? Wolf's claw? Like this symbol? Like this is actual Nazi. This was used by Nazis.
Themselves as Nazis. But the June 2018 meeting happened anyway, with a Canadian Forces colonel and diplomatic staff attending. The battalion published pictures on social media saying Canadian representatives expressed their hopes for, quote, further fruitful cooperation. In a statement, the Department of National Defense says they are strongly opposed to the glorification of Nazism and all forms of racism, racial discrimination.
Yeah. Your statements are BS. They're BS.
Discrimination, xenophobia, nor will we be providing support.
But you do. You do, providing support. Our official position remains that we are not, or nor will we be providing support to Azov and affiliated entities. But you did. But you did when you funded Ukraine, that has these guys now as their National Guard. Right? That's what you did. You can say whatever you want.
Support to Azov and affiliated entities. Brad Galloway with the Center for Hate, Bias, and Extremism.
Yeah. Some glowy cuck, right, that wants to cover everything over is explaining this away. Yeah, okay. Look who he tries to blame.
The Azov Battalion. He says that while some neo-Nazi groups prefer to be discreet with their imagery, the Azov Battalion is more forthright. German news found members of the unit sporting SS symbols and swastikas, and Azov prominently places the wolf's hook and black sun, two symbols favored by the Nazis, on its crest.
Maybe there's a wing of them that want to tone it down a little bit so it's playable in North America. That could be one aspect of it, but I think...
Listen to this cock explaining this away.
they're doing things over in Europe, I think it's as advertised.
Galloway says what concerns him most is the Canadian government underestimating the reach of groups like the Azov Battalion. Similar to Canadians who join ISIS, Galloway warns that alienated far-right Canadians may see the Azov Battalion as a chance to turn ideology into action.
And they blame Canadian far-right as a way... Yeah, okay there, guy. I look up stuff from all circles, far left, far right, in the middle, wherever in between. Doesn't matter. I look at it because I want to see the bigger picture of things. From what I'm seeing, the far right supports more Putin than anything. And not many of them do, but they sure as heck are not supporting Ukraine. Because they see it's globo homo. Right? I think Russia is also globo homo and just controlled op. Right? But a lot of people don't necessarily see that or believe that. And they see Ukraine as against what they believe, right? So it has nothing to do with far right. Nobody's falling for your glowy bait, Mr. Extremism researcher, okay? This is you, not him specifically, but this is our governments funding this. Those millions of dollars that go to Ukraine for military support, this is who it goes to. And it's not just the Azov Battalion. Don't let these people tell you that this is just some fringe part of the coalition. There's Svoboda as well. There's a whole bunch of other groups. There's a whole bunch of other groups that are part of this government, this regime. And they have been committing genocide against Russians.
Some risk I see is that guys giving up on the movement in North America and saying, well, we should organize and go to Eastern Europe.
Oh yeah, that's your worry, right? Not like, trying to coax people in to go fight and kill themselves over in Ukraine, right? Oh, that's your worry, far right people in Canada. Yeah, okay, Glowy.
We can actually do something. We can make a difference. And that's I think a huge risk.
In Ottawa, Xiaoli Li, City News.
No, thanks, Xiaoli Li. Yeah, anyways, sorry I've been missing the chat. Let's see what we got here. One sec. You guys are quiet today. I am pro-Putin because he can't possibly live more than 10 years. I'm okay with Biden because he can't live more than 3. That's the only thing they got going for them. It's the only thing I'm going to support is them biting the bullet. But you really think it ends with Putin? You know what I mean? It's not going to end with him. There's people that back him into power, right? And same thing with the other side. It doesn't end with Zelensky, right? Or Victoria Nuland. Or these are all just Zogbots or whatever you want to call it. Not Zog, that's got a bad connotation behind it that I don't necessarily agree with anyways. But they have Borg behind them, right? 14K to 15K deaths reported if you count 2014 to 2022. Yeah, talking about the Donbass region. Yeah, definitely, if you get the chance, folks, go through that, and you will see. You will just see what the Ukrainians have been doing to this region. And then try and tell me that, at least on the superficial level, that there's no justification for putting an end to this regime. Right? NPCs are getting very aggressive these days. And we got to be careful not to become an NPC of our own just to oppose them. Right? Because they've set up these traps for us to get radicalized on both ends. They know that not everybody's going to follow it, and that was their plan from the get-go, is to have two sides fighting against each other, at least two sides. Saw some imagery yesterday, literally ruined my day. Really a tragic video. Yeah, going through the history of what has led up to this point is sickening. It's sickening. How do dams affect the water? Sorry, don't forget Zelensky regime dammed up Donbass fresh water for 7 to 8 years, which is tantamount to ethnic cleansing. Yes, and they also cut off water to Crimea as well. Yeah, they got no problem. They have no problem with killing innocent people. right? And this is why it's such a joke when you hear them talk about, oh, it's protecting our democracy and these poor people, right? Of course, the citizens of Ukraine, even the ones that have been radicalized due to intelligentsia's actions, right? We should feel bad for these people. They're being targeted like we are starting to be targeted over here. After an economic decline, they're trying to get us all into BLM and right-wing extremist groups. You know, all this stuff is the exact same thing as what was going on over there. It's part of the color revolutions. And they're trying to do it everywhere to undermine sovereignty of nations so that they have the experts at the UN, and they take over everything. The state of the world is disgusting, but the stupid sheep are doing it at the behest of the elite and don't even know it. Yeah. I mean, I even did it. I was with like Occupy Wall Street when I was younger or whatever. But it became pretty clear that there was nothing that was going to come of that was good, right? That was the issue. I miss Biden tonight. Did anyone see what he had to say? No, he's just announcing sanctions, and he's just saying how it's going to destroy Russia. And at the same time, it's going to destroy us. It's going to make only the poor people suffer. These rich oligarchs, you don't think they have a game plan? They're the ones that are behind all of this. On both sides, the oligarchs are pushing us against each other. You don't think they have another way to get out of this? Really? Really? No, the people who are going to suffer are the ordinary citizens of Ukraine and anybody who gets involved. And that includes US, Canada, whatever. You name the country that gets involved in this, they're going to be affected. The poor people, the average citizens, they're going to be the ones that are affected with rising costs. Right? When they talk about, he mentioned that they're going to be stockpiling fuel and releasing more fuel. Yeah, okay, you can only produce so much. You're trying to shut down fuel production. You just did it in Alberta. You just did it here in Newfoundland, where I'm from. Shut down all oil production. So what are you just going to start that back up? That's not. I haven't heard anything about that because you talk about climate change all the time, right? So sooner or later, those oil barrels that get released are going to run out. Right? And then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? As the price of your avocados go up another $2 or $3 an ounce. Chi Girl, if you want to go through the Ukraine part of it, I stopped at like once he started getting into the actual State of the Union address, but I went through the Ukraine part. You can actually I started up right at that the beginning if you want to go watch that. Also, I'm sure there's many videos there, but yeah, he basically was just talking about sanctions and the will to fight of the Ukrainian people. All just superficial garbage is what it is, and completely disregarding the lack of social cohesion that were caused directly by his groups. Not to he certainly didn't mention anything about Hunter Biden being over there, who, by the way, I'm pretty sure. Hold on a second. Devin Archer just got jail. Let's see if there's something in the news I can find real quick. Devin Archer, who was Hunter Biden's co-worker or whatever, counterpart in Burisma Holdings, which was that Ukrainian oil company, a longtime friend and former business partner of Hunter Biden, was sentenced to just over a year in prison Monday for fraudulent bond scheme aimed at swindling a Native American tribe as separate federal investigation into President Joe Biden's son's taxes and business dealings continues. Devin Archer, who worked with Hunter Biden for the Rosemont Seneca Partners. Oh, sorry, he was with Rosemont Seneca. But they were also Rosemont Seneca and Burisma are very close together. Yeah, there you go. They even say it here. Filmed prior to both men joining the board of Ukrainian energy giant. Okay, I'm corrected again. Burisma in 2014. I was right the first time. Was sentenced to the Thurgood Marshall U.S. courthouse on Monday. Archer was ordered to forfeit more than 15.7 million and join his co-defendants in paying 43.4 million in restitution to the victims. What are they doing with these Native American groups? What are they doing? They don't mention this too much in any of the ones that I was reading, but you can check that for yourself. This is the Washington Examiner. I'll post the link here. So what are they doing with these groups? What are they doing with these groups? I'll tell you another thing that I missed a few months ago. Have you guys ever heard of Morningstar Bear? Like these groups, these same groups that are riling us all up, okay? They are messing with the natives. Hardcore messing with the natives. Morningstar Bear. Have you heard of this chick yet? Top indigenous health expert, nicknamed Morningstar Bear, under fire for allegedly faking Native American heritage 3 months ago. An investigation was launched into accusations that a top indigenous health expert in Canada faked Native American heritage, which she absolutely did fake it. It's not just alleged. Okay, hold on. Let's see if I can find her real quick on YouTube. Morningstar Bear. Just look how these fuckers are trying to pit each other against each other. And CBC jumps on this like they aren't part of it. Yeah, check this out. This is Memology 101. I don't know about his credibility either, to be honest with you. I got a feeling that he's here to stoke the flames too, but since we're looking into this...
Unfortunately, many people...
Closing the gap, right? The inequality on indigenous health.
...that access healthcare feel stigmatized. They might experience racism or prejudice, and whether it's perceived or it's real, when you're experiencing it, it's very real.
Have you experienced it?
I have experienced it.
My great-grandmother was Tlingit. She married an immigrant. They moved from the far northern BC into Saskatchewan, and they had a family.
Greetings. My name's Morningstar.
Just look at this. Morningstar Bear.
Star Bear? Whew. I'm just going to say it. I'm emotional, so... I'm Bear.
And TEDx, remember the ties between TEDx. We've talked about a lot about this on this channel. Epstein, TEDx through the edge.org foundation. Go to edge.org, look up their archives for Jeffrey Epstein's profile, and you can see that they were funding all of these dinners to get everybody in from TEDx and get them under their wing. This is what TEDx is. It's a recruitment for glowies.
Clan. I'm Anishinaabe Métis from Treaty 4 territory, and I want to acknowledge the territory that I'm in, Treaty 6 territory, home to the Cree peoples and homeland of the Métis Nation. I also want to acknowledge my ancestors who are clearly here with me.
Barassa's great-grandmother was Johanna Salaba, who immigrated from Russia to Canada in 1911 with her mother and sister. She married Joseph Knizichek, who was also a Czech-speaking Russian. In a statement released after CBC's story published, Barassa reiterated that she does identify as Métis, and she's hired a Métis genealogist to help her investigate her ancestry. She says the communities that she serves do not rely on, quote, blood quantum in order to assess who is truly Indigenous.
Blood quantum. Now, ain't that a weasel word if I ever heard one, right? So you don't have to be Indigenous. You're talking about experiencing racism, but it has nothing to do with genealogy. Oh, okay. Ancestry claims prove false. Apparently she was like Czech, German. Surprise, right? Okay, enough of that. But yeah, that's from Memology. You can I'll post the link anyways. All of these things are connected to each other because it is a bunch of groups trying to pit us against each other. That's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. You know what else is going on? Just a second. I got another video as well that shows the Pentagon Biolaboratories. This one is in Georgia, which is also on the shares a border with Russia, and they have it in the very close to the Russian side. And they have them everywhere, lined up basically all around every country that they can get them into. Like Ukraine, they had them in Ukraine. They had them in Kazakhstan. They had them in, I think, Azerbaijan as well. And they have them in Georgia. This one is on the Lugar area. So that's another thing that we're going to get into. I just want to say hello to the people chat, make sure I didn't miss anything. Let's see. Based Davidan saying Zogmas. I try not to say that, actually, because I am, again, more of the persuasion that it's the Vatican. I think there's a lot, when you start digging more and more into each of the quote-unquote Zogbots or whatever, you find the Vatican. But it doesn't mean that they're not around. That's for sure. Klaus Schwab talked about cyber warfare a while ago. Any more input that it could happen soon? Well, it kind of already has in certain places. 1 second. Where I'm from, Newfoundland cyber attacks. So, let's see. See if I can get a real quick video there for you. Oh, they're all like big. Here you go. This is from the National whoredom of prostitutes. CBC News.
Most days you'd be lucky to get a parking spot at the largest hospital in the province. Now it's emergencies only at the Health Sciences Centre and other hospitals in the region. Paul Vincent drove 350 kilometres only to find that his procedure had been cancelled.
I've been diagnosed with something on my vocal cords, a growth on my vocal cords, so they want to do a biopsy of that.
This woman's husband was supposed to have knee surgery.
You have to be psyched up for this surgery, and you're going to be put under, and with what he's already after going through the last 6 months and now this on top of it.
The entire province has been hit by an apparent cyber attack.
This is my hometown, by the way. This is called the Narrows, going into St. John's Harbor. I used to live like really... you can actually see where I used to live at one point.
But the eastern region, home to the most people and the most services, has suffered the biggest impact.
Our email systems are down. Our patient information system is down. We're not able to access diagnostic imaging or lab results.
We may have been victims of a possible cyber attack.
And that friggin' stooge, man, Paul Hagee, I think his name is.
Sources tell CBC News the healthcare system has been hit by a ransomware attack, where hackers hold information or IT systems hostage until ransom is paid. Health Minister John Hagee says it's still being investigated.
Oral questions.
The opposition pushed for more details.
Unfortunately, we didn't get an answer to understand the serious situation, if there has been a ransom request or not.
Unfortunately, for a lot of organizations, it's not so much a question of if they're going to get attacked, it's more when they're going to get attacked.
Yeah,
it doesn't take long for ransomware attackers.
And you know who they blamed, right? You can guess who they blame. Say in chat, who do you think they blame, folks? Who do they end up blaming? It was Trudeau that mentioned it after, because this became a national issue, because they forced the issue, of course, right? Because they created the issue. But who do you think they blamed? I'll let you guys say that in chat, right? But yeah, this is... and the funny thing was, too, just on a little side note, I got some sort of cyber breach, and I tracked them back, right? And I found these companies that have been related to hacks into military in different countries around the world. And same thing with police and other infrastructure systems, right? So I call the police, right? And with the information that I had found. And these fucking idiots, excuse my language, these absolute morons couldn't get it through their head that I was trying to report. This was like days before this came out. They could not get it through their head that I was trying to report this as a matter of their security. They were like, yeah, we don't investigate personal claims of being hacked. This could be your friends or something. I'm like, listen, Like, I'm giving you the information of what you can look up, because this is usually the precursor. They get into different IP addresses of the places that they do an actual attack on, and it can affect actual things within your own infrastructure, within the police, within all these different things. I'm not calling you because I thought someone hacked me. I wouldn't trust you to be able to know your arse from your elbow from it, right? This is for you guys. I'm trying to give you this information. Who do I give it to? And they had no clue. They had no clue. Just total coincidence. They have no clue about any idea about how these things work, right? Basically what happens is they get a few people, right, and they try and hack into a bunch of the residents or whatnot that usually have less secure systems, so that they can get information to get into more secure systems that affect infrastructure of a place, right? I'm not like, a cybersecurity expert or anything like that, but it didn't take me long to start tracing IPs and other things when I saw the breach on my end to companies and IPs that were involved with previous breaches of security attacks in other places. So I try and give them this information, and they had no clue what to do with it. No clue what to do with it. That's just a little side note, but... Oh, March 3rd as well. Yeah, 3/22. Yeah, could be. Let's see. Abhidab for Prime Minister of Canada. I don't think you want me being Prime Minister, dude. What about Elizabeth Warren talking about fake native ancestry? Yeah, because this is what they do. They're trying to infiltrate. They're trying to infiltrate all of these groups and pit us against each other. That's it. Glowy is an online term for an intelligence agent that are trying to stoke up and provoke, like they're agent provocateurs, is another word for that. They're trying to provoke unrest and trying to entrap people into doing criminal activities and catching them at in the criminal activities by this. But they're so bad at their jobs that they literally glow. That's like the inference there. That's why I call them a glowy. They're just crappy at their jobs. The Narrows is pretty Deadville. Yeah, it's a cool looking place. But yeah, it's also pretty slow these days. Russia. Boom. You nailed it. Yeah. They blame Russia is what they did. Yeah. Far right unvaxxed. Oh, actually, that wasn't a bad guess. Not a bad guess, I suppose. I bet Hunter Biden runs a telemarketing scam room out of Kiev. I don't know if he's that intelligent, to be honest. Not important enough to... they probably wouldn't trust him to put on the board on that. They'll do it for their oil, though. Yeah, the whole province... Well, like the biggest region in the province got hacked, yeah. Yeah, quote-unquote hacked. And we'll never know what happened of it. Their investigation was garbage. They were just, Russia, Russia, Russia. Okay, on to the next thing. Yeah. All right, this is the last thing I want to get into for the day. This is the bio, and I know this sounds like unrelated to Ukraine, but no, for those that haven't been following or whatnot, this is what's been going on that has led up to Russia, on face value anyways, wanting to take back their borders, is because we're putting biolaboratories like the one in Wuhan all over the borders of Russia. And this is why they keep wanting all these countries to join our agreements. So this is called Pentagon Biolaboratories, investigative documentary. I will post the link here as well that you can watch the full thing later if you want. But we're going to go through this today as well.
The U.S. Embassy in Tbilisi is involved in the trafficking of human blood and pathogens as diplomatic cargo for a secret military program.
Когда вызвали, у них пена с рта шла, один кричал help me, кричал все, а потом, когда умер, скоро увезли и все это скрыли. Все.
Pentagon scientists are given diplomatic immunity to research deadly diseases and biting insects at a military laboratory in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi.
Just before we start, just give you a quick reference point. Tbilisi, I think that's how it's spelled. Okay, so this is Crimea here, right? This is Ukraine. Russia here. And then right down here, this is the border. And this is Tbilisi. Okay? This is the capital of Georgia. So they also have one in Kiev. They have one in Odessa, which is this right here. That's where the massacre was as well. I want to say they have one in Charkiv. I could be wrong on that though, but they definitely have one in Kiev. They definitely have one in Odessa. Another place that they have them is in northern Kazakhstan. Sorry, I'm way down there. Right, so they have them all on the borders of Russia. You think that's a coincidence? Well, this video will prove otherwise. Bear with it.
Этот запах, этот дым, все, что идет красно-черный, зеленый, там это ночью, перед утром особенно, вот 3 часа, 4.
Выпускают все это ночью, чтобы люди не видели.
Internal documents and correspondence between the Ministry of Health of Georgia and the U.S. Embassy to Tbilisi show what experiments have been conducted at the Luger Center.
There's a strong smell of chemicals. This smell comes from the Luger Center at night, which is then spread by the wind to the residential areas. What is the need of military biolaboratories of the United States in 25 countries across the world?
That's another question. That's not his capacity.
This is public area. I can use the elevator. I can use the elevator.
Sorry, not this one. This one's full.
No, it is not full. Why is the Pentagon investing $65 million for gene editing? Can you answer why?
The Luger Center is a Pentagon biolaboratory in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi. It's located just 17 kilometers from the U.S. Veziani military air base. The military biolaboratory is heavily guarded. All passers-by within a radius of 100 meters are being filmed, although the military biolaboratory is located in a residential area. Bulgarian journalist Diliana Getiniera has been investigating the Pentagon biolaboratories in 25 countries around the world, one of which is the Luger Center in Tbilisi. These U.S. biolaboratories are funded by the Defense Threat Reduction Agency under a $2.1 billion military program, known as the Cooperative Biological Engagement Program, and are located.
That was the same thing as Wuhan. It was through the DoD, and that went through PREDICT program.
In former Soviet countries such as Georgia and the Ukraine, but also in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Africa. But also...
There you go. Kharkiv, Kiev, Vinnytsia, Mykolaiv, Dnipro, Lviv, Ternopil. Look at these places. I don't know if they're all the same level of security. I know that Kiev I think there's one in Odessa as well. They might have missed one.
So in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Africa. The Bulgarian reporter has been given rare access to internal memos and emails by Georgian insiders. She's being filmed while talking to local residents on a street near the Pentagon laboratory and wants to know why security guards are filming her.
I'm behind the fence, and I want to know why are you filming us? We were over there on the street talking with the local people, and you started filming us. You know what happened. You're violating our rights.
Could someone let me know? I just want to make sure that the sound is fine. Like if you can hear them, let me know if you need me to turn it up, or just let me know if it's okay.
Okay, please 1 minute. You know what happened? Our boss tell us if you show us your documents, we can call patrol police. Please show your passports, okay?
The Bulgarian reporter is being warned that if she doesn't comply, show her passport, and leave this place, she will be arrested. However, she goes back at night when the laboratory is seemingly still working.
There's a strong smell of chemicals. This smell comes from the Luga Center at night, which is then spread by the wind to the residential areas.
Этот запах, этот дым, все, что идет красно-черный, с зеленый там это. Ночью, перед утром особенно, вот 3 часа, 4.
Local residents from the Alexeivka neighborhood, where the laboratory is located, are not willing to talk on camera. Only a few of them are not afraid to speak up.
Реально, моя голова болит. Иногда вот когда выпускают вот это все, ветер обычно оттуда на нас идет. Вот запах тухлых яиц бывает, это что-то. Иногда вот такой, знаете, вот фиолетовый цвет выходит, иногда какой-то... Я один раз ночью, говорю, проснулся, утром уже светалось. И смотрю оттуда, я оделся, подошел, ночью дым выпускают. От кого вы прячете?
Тоже были случаи с филиппинцами. Они на квартире жили в 44-м корпусе. Лабораторию, когда еще совсем не достроили. Был несчастный случай.
Какой случай?
Сейчас умерли люди, филиппинцы, вот эти двое. Двоих куда увезли, куда еще 4 их было. Ну, кто его знает, как случилось. Что-то они там работали, видимо, отравились чем-то, каким-то газом.
Скажи, как вот эти вот отравились, эти филиппинцы, все правильно.
So I don't know if you're on your phones or whatnot and you can't see what's being said there. There was an incident that happened here upon construction of the building where 4 Filipinos, they were, well, I don't know if this is speculation or not. They were poisoned, it seemed, and 2 of them died, and then 2 others asked to call the emergency services. They said it was probably fish poisoning. Oh, yeah. And the Wu flu came from some bat cave 2 states over. Oh, okay.
Вызвали, у них пена с рта шла, один кричал help me, кричал все, а потом, когда...
There was foam coming out of their mouth. They were screaming, help me, and when they died, they took them away and covered it all up.
Скоро увезли, и все это скрыли. Вот это.
И даже сдохли. Вот когда даже вот этот они, да. Вот там, знаете, большую трубу они вложили вот под землей, и они канализационные свои трубы подсоединили с этой большой трубой. И, видимо, оттуда вот этот вонь, запах идет. Запах.
So they put these pipes under the ground, and it just basically takes it out, and it re-enters the surface just outside of the fence. These are these same people, by the way, right? The DOD and all these people that are behind the climate change garbage, right? And they're the ones that are saying we need to protect the environment.
Знаете, вот яйцо протухшего яйца и сено, когда вот гниет, вот такой запах идет. И ветер разносит в разные стороны.
Вот эта вот улица идет, вот здесь вот закопали вот такие вот трубы, синие такие трубы, пластмассовые. И идет там Пура, наша река, там 3, 4, 5 километров, и от этого все туда сливается. Они не только воздух наш травят, но и воду тоже травят, вот это вот. Здесь живут мои внуки, там внизу, они моих внуков травят, вот там.
Yeah, he's saying that it's going into the rivers as well. So, like, the drains go into the rivers as well, poisons the rivers there.
Вот по этой вот улице.
These internal memos have been provided by Georgian insiders on the condition that their identity remains hidden. Leaked correspondence from February of this year between the Pentagon and the Georgian Ministry of Health reveals that private American companies also perform work under the military program at the laboratory. This email, for instance, dated February 16th, 2018, has been sent by an employee of a private contractor, TMC Global Professional Services, on behalf of the Pentagon unit at the Lugar Center to ask for a meeting with the Georgian Minister of Health. The private company has been awarded 2 contracts in 2016, totaling $3 million for support services at the Lugar Center. Interestingly, the same year, TMC was also awarded another $975 million contract for counter-narco-terrorism by the Pentagon. Why is a company which works for the Pentagon on a worldwide program to counter narcotics has been given concurrently work at a military laboratory which burns chemicals at night? Local residents are worried about what chemicals are being burned secretly at night and what waste is being emptied into the river and causes the smell of rotten eggs in the residential area around the laboratory.
Воздух травит нас, он туда на нас идет. Вон труба, видите? И все закрыто, охрана все. А чего вы боитесь? Если у вас все нормально, почему вы боитесь? Я помню, один раз лично из 4 труб одновременно дым шел днем, а потом днем перестали. Выпускают все это ночью, чтобы люди не видели.
Ой, вы знаете, как плохо. Так эти запахи идут, специфические запахи вообще нас. Иногда так мучают, беспокоит ночью особенно. И потом еще после дождя тоже эти запахи вообще нас очень мучают. А кто у кого? Кто спрашивает, мои хорошие? Кто нас спрашивает? Мы маленький народ.
Это засекреченная лаборатория, где проводятся как бы непонятные испытания, и нужно на это обратить внимание мировым.
Internal documents and correspondence between the Ministry of Health of Georgia and the U.S. Embassy to Tbilisi show what experiments have been conducted at the Lugar Center. Leaked documents reveal that the U.S. Embassy in Tbilisi transports pathogens, as well as frozen human blood samples, as diplomatic cargo. The American diplomats claim the human blood is needed for research purposes in connection with an American program on hepatitis C in Georgia. Diplomatic cargo shipments are exempt from inspection and taxes, according to instructions by the Pentagon's Defense Threat Reduction Agency, which oversees and funds the laboratories. Biological material for the needs of the program must be shipped as hand-carrying items to the U.S. embassies. In the case of import to Russia, the biological material must be carried by diplomats in a diplomatic pouch and sealed as diplomatic cargo. Other instructions to U.S. personnel working under the military program prohibit the use of prostitutes, as foreign security services are known to use the enticement of such relations to exploit foreign officials, the document reads.
I don't know everything about this center because it
Isn't that a little bit weird? It's a weird little provision that they put in there. No use of prostitutes. Like as if anybody is going to follow that if they are looking to use prostitutes, but they still had to put it in there anyways. Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Hold on. We're about halfway through there. I just want to get through any comments I might have missed in the chat. Let's see. Let's take the vaccines. What's this? The world sure is a crazy place. First COVID, now Ukraine. What's next? Well, I mean, it's all connected, dude. It's all connected. Let's put it that way. I think that the same people are behind a lot of this stuff, to be honest. ES was in Agenda Free TV, burning time. Can't stand that guy. He's clearly got an agenda. Who's ES? I don't know who that is. Is there a correlation of where the labs are located and where the Russian military are attacking? I think so. I think that they're going into the places. I wouldn't be surprised after this invasion is finished that all those labs got mysteriously destroyed. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if it's happened already or something happened, or like maybe he'll surprise us and he'll expose them all, but I don't think that's going to happen. I got a feeling that any evidence of those labs are going to be wiped off and blamed on Putin. I think. That's my guess, if you want my prediction. Furthermore, you have Kazakhstan, the place where there was actually a biolab. Hold on. Pull this up real quick. Hold on. Kazakhstan. Oh, no. Kazakhstan. Protests bio lab. Let's see. Yeah, it might be a hard find now. They've probably scrubbed this. Kazakhstan officials denying that a U.S.-funded bioweapons lab has been taken over by rebels in the ongoing unrest that broke out last week. Yeah, I highly... they're all denying it, right? Fact-checking it. Fact-checking. But, yeah, it was in Almaty, I think. Kazakhstan denies military laboratory was seized by rioters after Russia claimed a possible pathogen leak occurred at controversial facility. So we'll probably never know the truth of what happened there. But very interesting that even became a part of discussion. Looks like they, in my opinion, from what I was looking at, they seized it. They took it. And it was only for a short time before Kazakhstan, they got the Russians in there to take everything back. So one can only imagine what happened there. One can only imagine what happened there. Yeah.
Very secret, and citizens don't know everything about this center. I don't like this, but our country takes this center very secret. Only I know that this place is very secret and nothing more.
Tasked with the program are biologists from the U.S. Army Medical Research Unit, Georgia, along with private American contractors and the U.S. Center for Disease Control. Certain zones of the laboratory are classified zones and are accessible only to American citizens with security clearance. They are accorded diplomatic immunity under the 2002 U.S.-Georgia Agreement on Defense Cooperation. Joshua Bast is Deputy Director of the U.S. Army Medical Research Unit, Georgia. The American military scientist drives a diplomatic car and enjoys diplomatic immunity without being a diplomat.
Ain't that something?
You work here because we saw this car last day and you're here again, so you're working here. You're from the US Embassy?
Oh.
What are you doing here at the Peace Center? Are you scientist? You're a scientist?
Joshua Bast is an entomologist and researches insects, according to a video released by the U.S. Embassy to promote the peaceful purposes of the otherwise military program of the U.S. in Georgia. Why does an entomologist work for the U.S. Army, and why is he accorded with diplomatic immunity?
He's like the Peter Daszak. Like Peter Daszak was with EcoHealth that worked with the Wuhan labs, studying bat coronaviruses with that company. That's what he's doing. Like, I think Peter Daszak was a zoologist, or he is a zoologist. And this is an entomologist, which is insects. It's like they have their own little thing going on with WTS, I think was the name of that company.
Entomological warfare is a type of biological warfare that uses insects to transmit diseases. Georgia borders on the U.S. main rival, Russia. Moscow has repeatedly voiced concerns about the potential development of biological weapons near Russian borders, including the spread of diseases through insects.
Понятно, что в таких центрах могут проводиться исследования не только в интересах санитарно-эпидемиологического.
Hold on, sorry. Understandably, it is possible to conduct research not only in the interests of sanitary epidemiological well-being of the population in the neighboring states at such centers.
Благополучие населения соседних с нами государств, поэтому сам факт масштабной медико.
Therefore, we are particularly worried about the Pentagon's large-scale medical biological activities near Russian borders.
Возникает законный вопрос об истинных целях такой военно-биологической активности Соединенных Штатов Америки.
Such fears are not groundless, considering a recent U.S. patent for a toxic mosquito aerial release system granted by the United States Patent and Trademark Office in 2014. The invention includes a drone that can release infected mosquitoes. According to the patent documents, it is capable of delivering lethal and non-lethal toxins, including an agent that can be carried and administered by a mosquito. The inventor of the drone for releasing the toxic mosquitoes, S. Mill Calvert, has patented 42 similar military inventions for the U.S. Army and Special Forces, including stroke-inducing bullets, in a span of just 2 years from 2013 to 2015. A person with such a name, however, does not exist in the U.S. Citizens Registry. The U.S. patent lawyer...
Glowy detected. So, yeah, stroke-inducing bullets. This is where this gets good. Like, this is where, like, you start seeing, like, what these guys are up to in these areas.
Louis Ventre, who filed the application, declined to comment on if the name was a pseudonym and who his client actually was. Documents show a number of Pentagon projects involving insects as possible vectors of diseases in Georgia. In 2014, the Lugar Center was equipped with an insect facility and launched a project on sandflies in Georgia and the Caucasus. In 2014 to 2015, sandfly species were collected under another project, surveillance work on acute febrile illness, and all female sandflies were tested to determine their infectivity rate. A third project, including sandflies collection, studied the characteristics of their salivary glands.
I have really a very serious concerns that nobody in the government in reality knows what is going on inside. Because as I know, in general, in some places, because there are some, as I understand, there are some different levels inside of this object. There are some levels where Georgians have an access and they are working, but there are some levels where Georgians have no access. And of course, it's not normal when there is some serious object in your country where citizens of your country have no access. Exception could be only diplomatic representation and embassies, which is normal for international law and for every country, but not with secret objects which exist. I think this should be a matter of our concern.
The Pentagon scientists have performed experiments involving tropical mosquitoes and ticks in Georgia. 21,590 ticks were collected for DNA databasing for future studies at the Lugar Center under the Pentagon project Genetic Diversity of Crimean Congo Hemorrhagic Fever Virus and hantaviruses in Georgia. The Pentagon projects involving ticks coincide with an inexplicable outbreak of Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, which is caused by infection through a tick-borne virus. In 2014 alone, 34 people became infected, along with a 4-year-old child, 4 of which died. A total of 60 cases and 9 fatalities have been registered in Georgia since 2009, according to leaked emails between Lugar Center Director Amaran Gamkrelidze and Minister of Health of Georgia, David Serchenko. These worrying statistics have been hidden from the public. Joshua Bast is not the only U.S. non-diplomat working on the Pentagon program who has been accorded diplomatic immunity. There are 5 diplomatic cars in the car park of the laboratory, all of them with registration plates of the U.S. Embassy.
US civilian personnel performing work at the Lugar Center have also been given diplomatic immunity, including diplomatic vehicles, although they are not diplomats. This practice is often used by the CIA to provide cover for its agents.
The CIA, she said.
Hello.
I don't think that any Georgian can answer, because it's just most of the researchers which come here from whatever, they are assigned to the embassy.
How can you control what foreigners with diplomatic status are doing at the Lugar Center?
There is no need of controlling. You are doing things together. I mean, what's the application of any diplomatic status there? I don't see any point. Sorry. It's a diplomatic status because of the living conditions here, but has nothing to do with the work. Any diplomatic status or whatever type of the protection the diplomats enjoy has nothing to do with whatever work is done in the Lugar Center.
Oh, I'm sure. So I don't know if you could, how well you could hear that. They should have picked a better way to conduct that interview, but they're saying that it has nothing to do with the fact that they work there, that they have it. It's because they're from the embassy and because of the living conditions there. It's like, oh, I'm sure.
The Defense Threat Reduction Agency has outsourced much of the work under the military program to private companies, which are not accountable to Congress and which can operate more freely and move around the rule of law. Leaked documents show that one of the companies involved in the program in Georgia is Booz Allen Hamilton.
Do you remember that name?
In June 2013, Edward Snowden, at the time a Booz Allen employee contracted to projects for the National Security Agency, publicly disclosed details of the classified mass surveillance and data collection programs of the U.S. around the world. Snowden's former employer, Booz Allen Hamilton, has been awarded 5 lucrative contracts by the Defense Threat Reduction Agency since 2010 until 2022, totaling at least $358 million for intelligence support services.
You know, if these people are against the country, they're against the government. This is something that's not our place to decide. The public needs to decide whether these programs and policies are right or wrong.
The Pentagon scientists can work in direct violation of international law. Under a 3-year agreement between the Walter Reed's Army Institute and the Georgian National Center for Disease Control, the Pentagon has been given full access to the local collection of deadly bioagents in order to study them. These are agents which can cause anthrax, tularemia, brucella, and the plague. According to the agreement's provisions, international law is not applicable to this agreement, the parties agree that no court, tribunal, or international entity has jurisdiction or authority to consider or provide judgment. Bulgarian reporter Dilyana Getiniera asked the U.S. Assistant Secretary of Health, Robert Kadlec, for a comment during a conference on biological weapons at the European Parliament in Brussels, and was immediately expelled from the conference.
Why has the Pentagon been operating military laboratories in 25 countries, bordering on the U.S. main rivals, Russia, China, and Iran? And why has the number of deadly outbreaks in all those countries increased dramatically since the start of the military program of the United States in these countries?
I will just say unequivocally and undeniably, the U.S. does not have a military biological weapons program.
Oh.
Period.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, you do it through your private companies, right? He's saying that they don't have any programs, just period. Right? End of discussion.
End of statement. Number two, we have been working, and I do know for the Department of Defense, they've been working with partners in parts of the world to ensure that those laboratories, and we train them on how to do diagnostic tests on these diseases, to ensure that they can manage them and also safely secure those pathogens so they're not accessible by terrorists or by criminals who would do ill with them.
While all these projects classified information, all these biolaboratories of the Pentagon in 25 countries across the world, why are they classified information?
They're not classified, they're openly available to anyone who wants to look at them.
No, I tried.
Okay.
No, this is not true. They're classified information.
No, you had your chance. It's not an investigation here, I'm very sorry.
You're talking about...
of course.
It's not an investigation here, right? We don't accept any questions that might think that we're not doing everything just perfectly.
But I will not let you...
Why can't
I
we
will
talk
not
about,
give you the word like this. We try to answer your questions, but that's not the place. Case closed. Thank you very much.
Alliance of the, I think it says Alliance of Liberals and Democrats for Europe is this acronym here. Well, she shuts it down and they all just clap.
Just one more question.
We can take questions right now.
What is the need of military biolaboratories of the United States in 25 countries across the world?
Can't answer that question. That's not his capacity.
This is public area. I can use the elevator.
Did they force her out?
Sorry, not this one. This one's full.
No, it is not full. Please, I can use the elevator.
Look at this guy.
I can use the elevator. Come.
No more questions then.
Why not?
Okay, we're either going down.
Why is the Pentagon investing $65 million in gene editing?
I'm sorry.
The gene editing is part of these programs. Can you answer why?
No, we can't, says the hoe in the back.
Documents reveal some of the projects funded by the Pentagon, among them projects related to Russia. The U.S. Air Force has been specifically collecting Russian RNA and synovial tissue samples, raising fears in Moscow of a covert U.S. ethnic bioweapons program.
Russian Caucasian, so they want to get they want to get human tissue to study, and it needs to be Russian/Caucasian.
Вы знаете, что
There's the crux of it there.
биологический материал собирается по всей стране. Причем по разным этносам и людям, проживающим в разных географических точках Российской Федерации. Вот вопрос, вот это зачем делают? Делают целенаправленно и профессионально.
Just real quick. So would you consider samples from Ukraine? No, all samples, synovial tissue and RNA samples, shall be collected from Russia and must be Caucasian. The government will not consider tissue samples from Ukraine.
Правильно и профессионально. Мы такой вот объект очень большого интереса.
The Pentagon has also studied the Russian anthrax strain at the Lugar Center, for which Russia has a vaccine, as well as the genome sequence of the Russian Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever virus strain. leaked emails between the director of the Lugar Center and the Minister of Health of Georgia, David Serginko, reveal an ongoing Pentagon project on Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever in the country. The Minister of Health of Georgia, David Serginko, did not respond to the questions sent via email by Diliana Getiniera. The leaked emails, though, show the minister's reaction to this question. He has forwarded the email to his press center, swearing at the journalist in Georgian. Who the hell is she, and where did she get my email from? Coincidentally, the journalist was locked up in the bedroom of her rented flat in Tbilisi while sleeping, and was freed by emergency services who accessed the locked room through the roof.
Whoa, I didn't see this part.
The police have no answer as to who had broken into the flat, locked the journalist in, and why, given that nothing had been stolen.
Gang stalking tactics.
I'm behind the fence, and I want to know why are you filming us?
Probably someone doesn't want journalists to investigate what chemicals are secretly burned at night in the Pentagon-funded laboratory, and why a private contractor on a Pentagon program to combat narcotics happens to work also at the same laboratory.
So that's that. I think I already gave the link. I'll just drop it in one more time if you wanted to take a look at that later. Oh, sorry. One more time. Added something there on that first one. And I know this wasn't Ukraine. See if I can get the one that I was looking at earlier as well. I just wanted that to drop the thing here. Hold on. Yeah, this is the one. USM.
The work
this is
we
the
do
Kiev
in
one. This is the Kiev one.
The biological threat reduction program is complicated, and it's difficult to communicate it sometimes to outside audiences. And I think our adversaries like Russia can take advantage.
Like Russia, right? So we're just gonna make this video with soft piano in the background, right? Just to clear all your fears.
Advantage of that with some of the propaganda that they put out.
The biological threat reduction program is working in 27 countries. We feel this disinformation and misinformation is done just to really exploit divisions.
We've had accusations
All the buzzwords, and you're creating divisions.
that some research projects were being used to create threats, not to identify threats and reduce them. Ulterior motives are being injected where none exist.
We've built these capabilities for the partners, their central reference labs for research. They publish everything they do. They invite the international community into their laboratories. They're working on behalf and the benefit of the people of their respective countries.
Kazakhstan, like many of the other republics in the former Soviet Union, had biological weapons. Russian media has attacked the central reference laboratory that was built by the Biological Threat Reduction Program. The laboratory is there to both store dangerous biological pathogens.
Remember the Biological Threat Reduction Program? That's what the Georgia one was as well. And the 27 countries, they just admitted to it there in that one. And these are all Americans talking. Right? And they just say that America has no biological program here.
From the Soviet era, and to conduct research by Kazakhstani scientists in order to prevent the spread of new biological pathogens.
Work in Ukraine is essential to help safeguard Europe from some of the naturally occurring diseases that could really undermine security across the region and ultimately to the United States.
There's, conflict with Russia. They've always been very close ethnically and socially. Now they've had a shift and they're looking to the West.
In Georgia.
No. You're bombarding them with propaganda. And they're looking to the New World Order. They're not looking to the West, though. Kazakhstan is its own beast, too.
One of the primary targets of Russian disinformation is the Lugar Center.
They were putting articles in the newspaper saying our engagement there was basically to use them as a proxy for a biological weapons program.
Their purpose is to make the Georgian people and people in the region afraid of this cooperation.
You know, scientists from all of the countries, they are thinking on one way to make something better for people, better health.
No, they're all following the grant money because they're grant whores, right? And they'll do whatever you tell them to do.
Better security.
The key thing to remember is that Georgia desires to have a strong strategic partnership with the United States to integrate into Western institutions, and Russia does not like that.
Everything what is blamed from Russia, this is has only the political platform. We organized several times the visit of the Russian journalists here, the tours in Lugar Center of the diplomats sitting here in Georgia.
There was a 22-person team of international experts who came to visit the Lugar
International grant whores.
Center to carry out a peer review. In November of 2018, Russian experts were invited to participate in this peer review. They declined to do so.
We give possibility to all this.
Oh yeah, they declined to do so because you're a bunch of grant whores that don't accept any dissenting opinion.
A very high-level specialist for any countries to see everything in the Lugar Center. This team was absolutely in the consensus. They say we are make here just peaceful work for public health issues.
I'd like to invite everybody who wants to be informed about the Lugar Center and what we are doing there, including Russians. And they can come anytime.
None of these projects are classified. We're always looking for our scientists that we...
They are. That's what that documentary just exposed.
Partner to publish.
That was the part where like they all ran out when they were saying none of these projects are classified. Like she was calling it out, and then she had remember the Gronky chick? She totally shut down the conversation.
Combat disinformation with information and with good strategic communications.
The United States has humanitarian concerns that are beyond really power concerns. And
right, yeah. Save our girls! Save our children!
I think it's important for the United States to continue that.
You think it's a coincidence they shove that up there? It's like, we're just trying to save our girls. That's why we conduct all these experiments that are confidential and then say they're not confidential.
That kind of work.
We have complete transparency in the type of work we do. This is a way that we help counter the propaganda that we get from Russia.
Wherever we go in the world, it's the same approach. We're trying to work with a partner.
I mean, this comes off as like the worst propaganda video ever. Like, this is the most generic thing I've ever seen. Like, with the music, the bright lights, the children dancing, and then just misinformation, disinformation, Russian propaganda. Russia, 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 Russia.
To do positive, meaningful research and capability providing, and there's no secrets to how we approach that.
Isn't that something?
The U.S. biolab situation got a lot more spicy over the weekend as
there's a lot of people on on this platform. I can't get into it too much because they kick people off the platform that talk about it too much. But so I can't get into it too much. Someone asked also about the jabs too. There's very little I can say without possibly someone kicking me off for it. So I mean, time will tell, and apparently a lot of time will tell because companies like Pfizer and the like are trying to withhold any information on the effects of the vaccine and stuff like that from getting out for the next 70 years. So I don't know why they'd want to do that, but one could suppose on their own since they can't work off any other information. Yeah. Let's clue up. If you guys got anything you want to mention before I go up, see if there's anything I'm missing. Alan V. Barrett, thanks, Avidan. Been a pleasure, but I'm staring for ages now without blinking. Time for bed. Good night, man. Good to see you. I hate mosquitoes. Yeah, this is some scary stuff too, man. I mean, that's creepy stuff. Needs to be an investigation. Yes, but you know, you're dealing with the CIA, and their job is to stop all investigations of anything that goes against them. So, that really was a brave journalist. Hope she's safe with her crew. Yeah, did you just see what happened there at the end there? I didn't even see that part, but her door got locked. She got locked in her own room. That's interesting, isn't it? Maybe they would like Putin more if you put on some makeup and a wig. Oh yeah, there was a video of Zelensky. Hold on, see if I can find this real quick before we finish up. Zelensky, who's but for those that don't know, here it is. I think this is it anyways. Hold on. I might have a little bit too much open. Give me a second. You got to see this guy. What a clown this guy is. Let me just get a few of these windows closed. Here it is. Okay. Comedy, right? Apparently this is comedy. This absolute degenerate. Notice how they're doing that zombie dance that you see everywhere too. They're just hanging by a string like puppets. He's got his pants down at his legs, and so they're playing it with his penis, I guess. This is supposed to be funny. Like, these people are so degenerate. So yeah. By the way, for those just coming in wondering what the heck they're watching, this is the president of Ukraine now. Just... Okay, let's see if there's much more to this. I can't watch this for that long. There's more to it. If not, I have another video that shows the other thing I wanted to show. Oh, this is pathetic. Okay, hold on. I got another one here. It's got some music to it. I don't know if I can play it. It might cut it off, so hold on. But this is the level of depravity that is currently attempting to overtake Ukraine. And there he is with, you know, the devil horns, which is you know, like I remember when I was a kid, I would like put those up for every picture as well, not knowing really what it meant. So like you can't really just like look at him posing devil horns and then saying that this is, you know, he's a Satanist, right? But, you know, it all adds up.
Я закликаю складати зброю, нашу армію і йде евакуації. Значить так, я тут, ніяку зброю ми не складемо, будемо захищати нашу державу, тому що наша зброя – це наша правда. Наша правда в тому, що це наша земля, наша країна, наші...
It's a critical time because we know that
We've seen that already. Yeah, this is it. I'm going to have to turn this down, I think. But yeah, this is him. There he is. Lovely stuff, huh? He's there in high heels. Oh, these people are so degenerate. And I guess this is a video of them, like, all of the prostitutes here taking photos of them pretending to fight. The music that was on this is like just a country, it's a pop country song.
And waited till the time got right.
So I can't, I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, he's putting up enough of these hand signals. Make you wonder. But yeah, as someone mentioned, it's NPC humor. It totally is. Is this the gay dancing one that you're talking about? You can post a link if you want. Sure, so the one that like I put up doesn't have the original music in it. It's like someone put it in a country song. And just like, this is like a collage, I guess you can say. All right, my friends, let's go through the chat and finish this up. The heroic music. You are the superhero. Join us. Yeah. I hear it with that Kiev biolab one. Yeah. I know what you mean. Control net interspace. Yes. I'd rather eat a jab from Prime Minister Mike Tyson with my hands tied behind my back. Yeah. I don't like modern society, man, in the modern world. I think there's a ton of people. Like, this is how this is. It's like we have a world filled with ridiculous degeneracy, and many people have bought into it, but there's many that haven't, and they're coming for us. That's what's going on. They want us to feel demoralized. I laugh at them, man. There's no reason to like lose your mind over it. Expose them, but don't let them take over your life. And if you feel like you're getting way too demoralized, go do something that makes you happy, to be honest. Like, there's no reason to like let these guys like take over your mindset. They're going to lose in the end. They're going to lose in the end. Maybe not on this world, but... looks like they're broadcasting that they're puppets to be strung around. Yeah. Playing the notes with their dicks. No moral compass. And this guy became president. Yeah. Zelensky there saying, look, I can be the best puppet. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. I did a video of President of Ukraine as a gay dancer. Post a link, man. I'm not getting any links from you. If you post, go ahead. We can finish it up with that. He won by a 70% margin. Can you believe that? Well, maybe I can believe it, because I have seen the amount of mind control that Ukraine has been subjected to, especially in the western part of it, right? And that's why the East wants to leave it. It's so degenerate. Symbolism all over it? Yes, indeed it was. Crazy world we're living in. I hate to say it, but we in the West have pushed degeneracy on the other countries for a while, removing religion and replacing it with the rainbow cult. Yeah, globo homo. Globo homo. There's a link. YouTube. We'll trust it's okay to play. Hold on.
It's straight out of Sodom and Gomorrah. I don't want to do this. I'm stalling here a little bit, give you time to move your children away from whatever device you're using to watch this, okay? So if you need more time, just stop, pause, and come back and watch it later. I'm going to show you a music video from Ukrainian television. One of the men dancing on stage is Zelensky. This is the man America and the European Union is defending. This is the man they said is Churchill. This is the man who they say we are willing to go into nuclear war with Russia to back this man. It's straight out of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Здрасте. Василий Петрович Голобородько? Да. Доброе утро, господин президент.
Oh yeah, that's where he plays the part as president of Ukraine before he becomes president of Ukraine.
Привет, как дела? Серьезный день, ребята. Как настроение? Класс? Це не фейк, і я дуже серйозно відношусь до нашої країни, до життя кожної людини.
Ясно. Если не твой, не мой, значит, это человек Рустема Ашотовича. Господа, клянусь, я не имею к Голобородько никакого...
Много всего нового научиться. Посмотреть, как дышить собака.
Обіцяю вам піти в президенти України. І одразу виконую.
What happened to his voice?
В президенти України. Давайте зробимо це разом. З Новим роком.
Для того, щоб Україна була об'єднана, щоб Україна була захищена, щоб безпека України не ставилася.
В руках Коломойской. Не был бы игрушкой, честно говоря, в руках ни одного из этих людей.
If you're a man of principles,
yes.
Why are you working for a man who the anti-corruption authorities say has stolen all this money from the people of this country?
Все каналы у нас принадлежат олигархам. Все крупные предприятия принадлежат этим.
It's straight out of Sodom and Gomorrah. I don't want to do this. I'm stalling here a little bit, give you time to move your children away from whatever device you're using to watch this, okay? So if you need more time, just stop, pause, and come back and watch it later. I'm going to show you a music video from Ukrainian television. One of the men dancing on stage is Zelensky. This is the man America and the European Union is defending. This is the man they said is Churchill. This is the man whom they say we are willing to go into nuclear war with Russia to back this man. Tell me, after you watch this, who is Sodom and Gomorrah? Here's the video.
Будьмо гей за волю, за долю, за правду. Будьмо гей по першій, по другій, по третій. Будьмо гей, сам ти гей, за Юру, за Юлю, на долю. За Ляшка, ось моя булава, браття мої. Завтра йдемо танцювати проти москалів. Затанцюємо, мова, сила у нас є. Ще не вмерла Україна, поки крепко є. Борщ, сало, цибуля, хрін, сивуха, брага.
It's just so devoid of actual humor, you know? It's like they have no personality. They're just a bunch of bots that like consider edginess as just like they just swap out edginess and wit for degeneracy. Like pushing the line. Like, and I mean, it was like that with like Howard Stern and things like that. Like this shock humor stuff is just so mindless for the most part, and this is no exception. Like they just it replaces personality and creativity with just stupidity and globo homo. That's it. That's all it is. It's so degenerate. Yeah. Imagine this guy NATO president. Yeah, this is some backwards stuff indeed. This is also what Putin isn't wanting in his country. Yeah, I wouldn't either, you know. And I think there's a lot of people everywhere that doesn't want this crap. I don't think that was humor. Yeah, I think he was part of a comedy skit, is what that came from, right? This likely would have been on like a comedy show. Oh, there's still a little bit to this. Sorry.
Another 2 minutes of that vulgar video, but we don't need to watch it. Did you see Zelensky?
The president of Ukraine.
Yes.
The one being touted as this wonderful leader who addressed the European Parliament by video today with his raised fist.
So, Doc, when Western leaders say this fight is about LGBTQ.
Всім доброго ранку, українці. Зараз в мережі дуже багато з'явилось фейкової інформації, що, немов я закликаю складати зброю, нашу армію і йде евакуація. Значить так, я тут, ніяку зброю ми не складемо, будемо захищати нашу державу, тому що наша зброя – це наша правда. Наша правда в тому, що це наша земля, наша країна, наші діти, і ми все це будемо захищати.
They're serious.
Yes, they are serious. These are their values, right?
They're driving the world to world war over sexual perversion. And they're saying Putin is a tyrant because he is against homosexuality in Russia. Tell me, whose side is God on? You better think about this tonight. Whose side is God on? The Russian Christians are praying, God, fight for our country. We're fighting reprobates.
I don't think he's on the side of Putin either.
We're fighting
demoniacs.
Listen,
Yeah, see, this is the thing about True News that I've noticed. Like, they're quite ecumenical. They kind of come off as Protestants, but Orthodox are no better from Catholics, right? I don't trust Russian Orthodox as or Orthodoxy as like a Christian religion. They're so wrapped up in following the leader as well, and very little focus on Scripture, very little focus on it. So I don't like taking sides. I really don't. I don't think either side is scriptural or biblical, other than maybe, might be able to find these guys in Revelation somewhere. But still, it's a good point. It's a good point. I'm not going to let this get me caught up in this dialectic that they're trying to create for us, where it's like, it's either you're with the Christians or you're with the Ukrainians or something, because it's not about that. It's about splitting us up and stopping us from seeing who the true enemy is. Not saying that that's what you're pushing there, Sheriff. I'm not sure how you quite believe on it, but I can't support Putin, but I certainly am not going to be standing with Ukraine anytime soon. It's not just because Zelensky's a global homo puppet, as he clearly is. Like, they did a good job at showing that here. That's for sure. That's for sure. It is demonic. It absolutely is demonic. And it's provocative, right? Like, they know what they're doing. They're provoking other people to hate them and then others to support them no matter what they do. Right? Both sides are doing that. Both sides want us to get into that mode. Did you see the old video of Trump and Giuliani? Post it, Talks, before we go. God is on the side of non-sexual deviants. But not necessarily, okay? I'm not saying that he's with sexual deviants. What I'm saying is that, like, sexual deviance is but one form of deviancy, right? There are other forms of deviancy which he is just as vehemently against, like replacing the gospel with tradition, right? And you see that Russia is hyper focused on tradition and their own culture and like self-obsession, right? Like God, like homosexuality and things like that is just one way that we sin, right? When we're not going his way, we are sinning. We are going. It's. People don't die because they're gay, or people don't die and go to hell because they're gay. People die and go to hell because they go their own way, rather than accepting God. Right, and I'm not convinced that Russia. Well, I know that Orthodox Christianity is not biblical Christianity. It's very clear that they're a group of hegemons, or not hegemons, patriarchs is a better word to say it, and they like to speak in place of God, right? That's like what Jesus criticized with the Pharisees, that they were manipulating what God's word was, right? Long live Russia, long live Putin. Hey man, I don't want Russia to be off the face of the earth or whatever. I don't think they will either. I think they will win this. I think it's actually kind of clear that they're going to win this, despite all the propaganda that's being pushed in that they are that they're losing somehow. I think that's pretty dumb. I think it's actually quite pathetic propaganda that people say that Russia is losing. But I'm not going to follow a man like that. I'm not going to follow any man. Putin, I think, is just another side to the wheel. Like, it's just another way to get us all hating each other. right? He is dang close to Klaus Schwab. You know, I suppose you can argue that anybody with that kind of power is going to rub elbows with these people, but he certainly doesn't call them out. Okay, he'll call out the U.S., right? And the U.S. deserves to be called out on many reasons, right? The West deserves to be called out, but that doesn't mean I'm going to support Putin because he on the surface level denounces globo homo, right? Like, I don't think that is smart. I think that is the dialectic that these people want to put you in, and I would highly recommend just like think about it. Like, they know that not everybody's going to support globo homo, so what do they do to get you in a box under their control, right? And if you look at like the history of how fascism came to rise, is because we saw degeneracy and we wanted to look to a strong leader, and in that it was how we all got controlled under fascism. This is an air raid. This is all Kiev. Might be another one that comes up with a delay. Sun is up there now. It's a dreary day. Let's do one more quick live map check before we finish up there. It's getting late here now. Okay, so they are conceding that Russian troops have seized the river port and railway station in Kherson. Mayor of Kherson, Igor Kolyov, said. According to CNN, Russian military vehicles entered Kherson after heavy shelling and appear to have taken the southern city. So Kherson is down here. Yeah, it does look like they have they have a good hold of this area, I think. Still not showing any updates here with Mariupol, though, which I totally do think is encircled. No updates on Kiev. These lazy douchebags at Live UA Map. There is no way that the advance is that slow. No way. They only admit what they can't possibly deny any longer. Which town? It's Kherson. Just to double check. I know I just showed it, but I'll just show it again. This place right here. Not a huge town, but you can see how it's strategically important. You have the river here. I think it's the Dnieper. And that basically gains you access into the underbelly that is Ukraine. So this right here, Kiev is up here. I wonder what their next move is then from here. Are they going to push on to Transnistria, this area right here? This part is also controlled by Russian-speaking separatists. That's why it's in red. Moldova is the country here that it's broken off from. So I do wonder what they're going to do here. The shelling already started here, which is basically the area between Kherson. So Crimea is right there. That's what they took in 2014. And so it's in between this area right here, Kurovo, what is it? Kurovorod? I wonder if there's like an airbase or something there. Sorry, this is being really weird today. I don't know why it's not loading properly. Now another thing too, I think there's a hydro plant that's by Kherson, and that would certainly cause some problems if they were to see something like that. Oh, here's something kind of interesting before we go. So, the Security Council meeting with Lukashenko, who's the president of Belarus. Belarus is the country just north of Ukraine from which they have invaded. This area right here. And so they're talking about invading with Russia along with that, as Russian forces did come from the Belarusian borders. But you see here talking, and he's showing Ukraine divided into 4 areas. It'd be interesting to see what he's looking at there. Military facilities destroyed by missiles from Belarus. Invasion plans, I guess. Oh gosh, it looks like the 1970s in that room. I'll do one last refresh. Anything else you guys got to say before I go? Trump with Giuliani, Trump and Giuliani in drag is a comedy skit from 22 years ago. All right, we'll have to look at that. This is the Degeneracy Hour on Avidan Livestream.
You know, you're really beautiful. And a woman that looks like that has to have her own special scent.
Oh, thank you. Maybe you could tell me what you think of this scent.
I like that.
This may be the best of all.
Yeah, this doesn't surprise me.
dirty boy, you. Oh, oh. Donald, I thought you were a gentleman.
You can't say I didn't try.
Ugh.
Mayor Giuliani, he's given away over $2 billion in corporate wealth.
That old, that rite of passage that a man's got to wear, what do you call it? A dress. Very common with Globo Homo. Did you ever see, I think it was it Cat Williams that called that out? They make like a lot of black guy actors wear dresses. All right, guys, I think I'm going to finish up. Let me just see if there's anything else I missed. Did I hear correctly that the Russians took the nuclear plant in the south? No, I'm just saying, I'm mentioning how there are plants here. There's a hydro plant, I think, as well as a nuclear one. I'm not sure what's been taken. These scary times, because this area produces a lot of power for Ukraine, if I'm not mistaken. I was just bringing it up because it's now confirmed that they took Kherson. Or Kherson, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest. Zaporizhia, I think, has the hydro plant, isn't it? They don't seem to be there yet, so. Can you rename your channel to Preventing Globo Homo? Oh, I'm not going to prevent it. Certainly ain't going to be me. Can't wait for Trudeau to look stupid for supporting these clown dictators in Ukraine. A lot of these people, for sure, like, this is one reason why, like, I'm not cheering for Russia. I'm certainly... I think that NATO needs to get their comeuppance. If we're taking this on a superficial level, that this isn't all a show, right? Like, they need their comeuppance, like, hardcore. They need to get cut down to size. And maybe this could be a good lesson for people that just, like, believe the sweet little lies of the West, you know? Because Ukraine certainly did, and now look what's going on. Yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to finish it up. Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Some good stuff in. Appreciate it. Oh, sorry, Genius says. I didn't mean to... I try to give a wrench to everybody here so they can post links and stuff. I forgot about you. I'm sorry. Putin was removed from the WEF website? Yes. Yeah, I saw that too. Sorry I missed your comments there, man. I was too deep into the degeneracy. All right, guys. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one. I'll probably do one tomorrow. I got a feeling things are going to get pretty hot, actually, to be honest. So we'll chat then. Until then, guys, have a great one, and thanks for joining in.